right, I have 7 o'clock, so I'm about to go live on YouTube. And we are live, so you guys may begin the meeting whenever you like.
Thank you, Jacob. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josephine Spencer. I would like to welcome you to the White Lake Township Zoning Board of Appeals. This board is a quasi-judicial board, which consists of 5 members. In order for your variance to be granted, you must receive a majority from the full board. In order for this board to grant a variance, you must prove a practical difficulty exists. Unfortunately, personal circumstances or financial hardships cannot be considered by this board. If your variance is granted, you have 6 months in which to obtain the required permits, or your variance will expire and you must reappear before this board. If your variance is denied, you have the right to appeal this decision. By state statute, you must appeal to the circuit court and have 30 days to file an appeal. There is no other township board that can overrule this decision. All cases will be heard in the order they appear on the agenda. I will call the case, staff will give their review, and the proponent will have 10 minutes to speak. The board will then ask questions of the proponent, and then the public hearing will be opened. Each member of the public who wishes to speak will have 3 minutes to do so. We ask you please state your name and address for the record. After the public hearing is closed, the proponent will have 5 minutes to address any questions or concerns. It will then be brought back to the board for consideration, a motion, and a roll call vote. And with that, Hannah, may we have a roll call, please?
Hasseltine,
Here, White Lake Township.
Schlack,
Present, White Lake Township.
DeHart,
Here, White Lake Township.
Spencer,
Here, White Lake Township.
Powell.
Here, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
And do we have a support? Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We have the minutes of May 27th, 2021 in front of us. Do we have a motion to approve these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Debbie. Do we have a support?
I'll support.
Thank you. May we, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Our first case is John Rosansky. The location is 8565 Pontiac Lake Road, also identified as 1213-326-003. The applicant requests to construct an apartment building and associated parking lot, requiring variances from Article 3.1.9.e RM-2 multifamily residential side yard setback and minimum lot width. A variance from Article 5.11.a off-street parking is required due to the parking setbacks. A variance from Article 5.19.n.I.c dumpsters and trash storage enclosures is required for the dumpster projection in front of a principal building. A variance from Article 5, Section 11.q.18, I think, is required to waive the installation of the parking area curbing. And with that, may we have staff report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, board members. So this property is approximately 3 acres in size. It's located on Pontiac Lake. It does have split zoning, so the center line of the Pontiac Lake Road right-of-way serves as the boundary for the split zoning of this property. Everything north of the center line is zoned R1D, single-family residential, and the land south of the center line is zoned RM2, multiple family. There are 2 existing one-story buildings on the south side of Pontiac Lake Road, and they would be demolished as part of the project. The property is served by a private well and the township public sanitary sewer. So the applicant is proposing a 12-unit apartment building. This project probably looks familiar because it was before you a few months ago at the February 18th Planning Commission meeting. That body recommended approval of a preliminary site plan to the Township Board. Variances were required, and at the February Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, all of the requested variances were denied. A revised site plan was submitted, which is what you see before you, by the applicant to try to address some of the concerns from that time. At the June 17th Planning Commission meeting last week, they again recommended approval of the revised preliminary site plan to the Township Board, subject to the applicant receiving approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So some changes between the prior proposal and the current request include reduction of 2 units from 14 to 12, overall reduction in building size of 1,096 square feet, 368 square foot reduction on both the first floor and the garden level, and 360 square foot reduction on the second floor. The building, including the balconies and patios, were moved out of the 25-foot natural feature setback from the wetland, and the proposed sidewalk was relocated within the Pontiac Lake Road right-of-way. So just a little bit of background on what's going on inside the building. It's 1 2-story building with a garden level, which is a basement. It's totaling 11,871 square feet in size, with 6 2-bedroom units and 6 1-bedroom units. The garden and first levels are each 3,997 square feet in size and contain 2 1-bedroom units and 2 2-bedroom units. The second level is 3,877 square feet in size and contains 2 1-bedroom units and 2 2-bedroom units. All of the 1-bedroom units are 680 square feet in size, and all of the 2-bedroom units are 1,005 square feet in size. The floor plans that were submitted, so this is the garden level plan. The floor plans show all of the 2-bedroom units include an area labeled bedroom and study. All of these rooms contain a closet and a window and could be converted to a 3rd bedroom with a wall extension and a door. The units would still meet the minimum floor area required per dwelling unit if the 2-bedroom units were converted to 3-bedroom units in the future. Just for background, for multiple family residential, 1-bedroom units must be a minimum of 400 square feet in area. 2-bedroom units must be a minimum of 700 square feet in area, and 3-bedroom units must be a minimum of 850 square feet in area. Additionally, the lot size would still be sufficient if the 2-bedroom units became 3-bedroom units in the future. For a 12-unit building with 6 1-bedroom units and 6 2-bedroom units, the minimum lot size required is 51,000 square feet. That's almost 1.2 acres. There'd be a need for an additional 2,500 square feet of lot area, which is available on the site to accommodate the conversion of the 2-bedroom units to 3-bedroom units. And then just for your reference, the minimum lot area method of calculation is 10,000 square feet for the first unit, plus 3,500 square feet for each additional 1-bedroom unit, 4,000 square feet for each additional 2-bedroom unit, and 4,500 square feet for each additional 3-bedroom unit. So back to the site plan. I know it's hard to see on the screen, but I'll try to zoom in where I can. The minimum side yard setback in the multiple family zoning district is 70 feet on one side, 100 feet total of 2 sides. So the proposed side yard on the west is 40 feet, so they're requiring a 30-foot variance. The east, the side yard setback is 30 feet. And then just for informational purposes, the property, I know it's hard, but I'm calling to the right to the east. You could consider that to the southeast. That's zoned R1C, single family residential. And then the property to the northwest is zoned RM2, multiple family. So on the previous plan, which I can pull up later, but it's going to be kind of hard to switch back and forth on the screen. the east side yard was 27.7 feet and the west side yard was 30 feet. So a 42.3 foot variance was previously requested for the east side yard. So overall, the side yard variance request was reduced by 12.3 feet. So from 42.3 feet to 30 feet. They're also requesting parking setback variances. The zoning ordinance requires parking for non-single family residential and non-residential uses to meet the front yard setback requirement unless a 20-foot green belt is provided in accordance with the zoning ordinance. So the front yard setback in RM2 is 40 feet. There is not a 20-foot green belt. They're proposing a 10-foot setback from the south Pontiac Lake Road right-of-way line. So they're requesting a 30-foot variance for the front parking setback. And then for the side parking setback, I should back up a second. Overall, parking for non-single family residential uses may be permitted in a side yard setback if all of the green belt and screening requirements of the ordinance have been met. The zoning ordinance outlines a handful of different ways that you can achieve that screening, and I'm not going to read through them all, but they're listed in your staff report. The parking lot is located 5 feet from the west side lot line and 13.5 feet from the east side lot line. So the screen is as required isn't provided. So the applicant is requesting a 65-foot variance for the west side parking setback and a 16.5-foot variance for the east side parking setback. On the previous plan, the east and west sides of the parking lot were both located 5 feet from the side lot lines. And the requested variances were 25 feet on the west side and 65 feet on the east side. So another section of the zoning ordinance requires trash enclosures to be behind the front line of the principal building. So this proposed dumpster that you see here on the right side of the screen where my cursor is projecting in front of the building by 38 feet. It's also located in the front yard setback. So the dumpster is subject to the 40-foot front yard setback. It's encroaching 2.5 feet into that setback. So they're requesting a 2.5-foot variance for the front yard setback for the dumpster, and then a 38-foot variance to project in front of the building. On the previous plan, the projection in front of the building was 46 feet. So this was reduced by 8 feet, and that's because they shifted the building slightly to the north to get out of the natural features setback. The zoning ordinance, this did come up at the last time and we discussed it, requires curbing for the construction of a parking area in order to control stormwater flow from the parking area and to protect landscaped areas. So stormwater on the site is proposed to be detained by installation of an underground detention with pre-treatment structure. So you can see labeled on the plan how they're going to manage their stormwater on the site. A permit is required for their outlet into the Huron River or wetland from Eagle, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. So back to the curbing, there's a couple of different sections that would apply. The ordinance says all required landscaped areas and screen walls which abut vehicular drives, parking areas, or other use areas shall be separated from the vehicular use area with a 6-inch minimum curb of concrete construction. Then another section states concrete curbing shall be provided at the end of all parking areas and stalls. So again, the submitted site plan does not show the required curbing, so they're requesting a variance to waive the installation of the curbing. So just to cover our bases with the lot width, 200 feet is the minimum required in RM2 zoning, and at 170 feet in width, they're requesting a 30-foot variance to address the width deficiency. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Justin. And before we present any questions, I neglected to state that 13 owner occupants within 300 feet were notified of this request. No letters received in favor, no letters received in opposition, and no letters returned by United States mail. And I apologize, this thick file, I couldn't see it. With that, are there any questions of staff?
Yeah.
Nope.
If you, it So it's a reduction from 14 to 12 units, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just because for some reason, I seem to recall in looking at my notes that we had talked about a 3-unit reduction, so I'm just trying to get that clear. The dumpster has moved.
The dumpster has not moved, the building has moved.
The building has moved. That's the clarification. Okay, because obviously that was a big piece that we were talking about. I know there's a variance for curbing. Were any curbs added? Because I remember that was quite a bit of the conversation in the previous time as well. Were any curbs added?
The plan does not show curbing.
Okay. You just mentioned this. Landscaping, I mean, that piece that you just popped up, does that fall under our purview?
So when they're requesting variances to be in a setback, it does. So the parking lot needs to be screened according to the ordinance to be able to be located in the setback. So if there is no screening, that's why you see the variance for the setbacks for the parking area. So
Okay.
that's where that falls in.
This isn't to put you on the spot at all, but just a comparison between, so the building has moved, the parking lot, can we really, I don't know if there's a way to see.
I'll
Yeah.
try to show it on my screen, Nick.
Yeah, the difference.
It's gonna be hard, so
Sure.
hold on a second and let me try to work on that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I have it here. It's just, I gotta figure out how to show it best. Never done split screen before on Zoom, so we'll see how that goes.
Hopefully we're closing in on the end of our need for Zoom skills anyways, but appreciate it very much.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I have faith in you, Justin.
All right, I think I got it, and I might have to play around with the zooming a little bit, but. All right, so let me share this. So do you see two different buildings or one building?
One building. Oh, now maybe you went between two. I don't know.
Because I have,
We see the 14 units right now.
do you see the 12 unit one or no?
No.
All right, so it's,
You know, if you go to the bottom, I mean, it looks like if you were to pan over, we would see it. So I'm wondering if you almost just need to zoom out.
I don't think it's gonna let me do it, but, so if, right now on the screen,
Okay, that's fine.
so right now, this was the previous building that was proposed, so it was farther back.
Right.
Into the wetland buffer.
Mhm.
So that the building was shifted this way a bit to the north.
Mhm.
And I can go back. Here's the other one, if you can see that, the 12 unit. I don't know if it's hard to show them both on the screen.
Could I make a comment? This is Brian Howard. I'm the architect for
Not
the
yet.
project.
No,
It's okay, Justin. I'm trying to.
sorry, Nick.
No, you're fine. We saw the other one. I appreciate. I was just trying to get an eyeball. I mean, I could do it on my own as well here. I'm just trying to get a sense of. I mean, I can tell that the building has certainly moved out of the wetlands or the natural feature setback. But I was trying to really see what else changed. So that's all of my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Nick. Any other questions for staff? If not, then if the proponent would like to address us, he may.
Yes, thank you. This is Brian Howard. I'm the architect for the project. And Nick, just to clarify, as I'm thinking of this, when we reduced 2 units out of the building, we also were able to reduce the size of the parking area. And the parking lot has changed dramatically in the sense that that trash enclosure, as well as the parking on the west, has now moved to the east and reduced 2 parking spaces out of that parking lot, as well as the parking lot that used to be 12 spaces along the east property line has also reduced 2 spaces in. So substantially amount of less paving is occurring now based on the fact that we don't have to provide for the parking spaces for the units as well as the guest parking. So that's reduced as well. We, as Justin stated, by reducing the building footprint, we were able to pull it out of the natural features. But even second to that, we have also really tried to compact the parking area, create more landscaping areas around the parking lots itself. So, John Rosansky and I really, after our last ZBA meeting on the 18th of February, we really did try to listen and understand where our issues were. There was a comment in the report that stated that we were asking for a variance to remove or eliminate concrete curbing. That is not our intent at all. Our civil engineer, I think, just didn't show that on the drawing, and shame on me for not catching that. But our intent is not to try and have this as an asphalt parking lot that just water flows everywhere. That is not our intent at all. So we plan to, provide perimeter curb and gutter around this parking lot. So I don't know how that works from a variance standpoint, but we're not asking for that variance.
Thank you. I'm sure that if we make a motion, somebody will specify that you do intend to make certain that there is going to be concrete curbing.
Yes.
Justin, I have a quick question. Do the plans show the dumpster screening material?
They do. So what you see here is the dumpster detail. So they're showing a poured concrete or block wall trash enclosure. Our zoning ordinance doesn't allow a poured concrete wall, so it would allow concrete masonry units, CMU, for the block. They're showing an 8-foot. They're showing a 6-foot wall, I guess. Or 8 feet. I'm sorry, an 8-foot wall with a metal gate.
Okay, and I don't know if you can answer this or maybe Debbie can answer it. What is the building itself going to be built with? It's not going to be concrete?
No,
Block,
they're using a combination of brick and or brick veneer and siding. So composite siding.
So I'm wondering, Mr. Howard, if it would be possible to, for lack of better term, beautify the dumpster that's going to stick out by using the same material on the outside of the concrete block that you have on the building.
Yeah, we will absolutely make that trash enclosure a brick veneer enclosure to match the building with a limestone cap on top of it.
Okay, and does that show on the plans already, Justin?
They'll have to revise their plan.
It does not
Okay,
currently show that.
so if we make a motion, we might want to consider that as well then, just to make sure everything's taken care of. Any other questions? Go ahead, Catherine.
I'd like to comment also on the dumpster. I was thinking, since it's gonna be so visible, clearly we want it to look aesthetically pleasing. I would even suggest some masonry brick. And I'm curious, are the gates, were those metal gates in front?
It was a metal gate on the detail.
I'm wondering if maybe some white vinyl, something maybe a little more attractive would be possible.
I would propose that we make them out of wood and paint them. I think we found in other cities that the durability of the vinyl starts to warp over time because trash people do not take care of gates very well. And so I would propose we build a metal frame for the gates and then mount wood slats to that, paint them. They seem to last longer and they seem to create the visual appealing of a better look than the metal ones. So that we can change that detail without a problem.
How do you feel about maybe masonry brick as something aesthetically more pleasing than the concrete block? I
Oh,
believe.
no, we would definitely, we'll make the exterior of the trash enclosure the same brick veneer that the building is to match. So it won't be poured concrete wall like is stated currently on our civil drawing.
Okay, that's not the same as masonry brick though.
Masonry brick is basically brick, yes.
Okay, but that's not vinyl. Okay.
No. What we do is we build it as a block wall first and then put a brick veneer on the face of it. So on the inside of the trash enclosure is a masonry block for durability purposes for the dumpster that keeps crashing into it. From the exterior, you see it as the same brick as the building.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mike, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wondered whether or not Justin might have an idea. There's a reason why dumpsters are put behind the buildings or away from the face of the building, and that's that most of the time the gates are left open and trash is just seen spilling out. And I'm just trying to figure out how we can prevent that from happening, since this will be right in the front of this building and visible to everybody up and down Pontiac Lake Road.
Yeah, I don't know of a way to do that unless you require automatically, self-closing or self-latching gates or some type of electronic gate, which I know part of the reason to build the trash is supposed to be behind the front line of the building. One is aesthetics and two is noise. Generally, if trucks drive behind a building, they're making their noise at the back of the site as opposed to the front of the site. So that's where that comes into play in the ordinance.
Yes, the natural setback, it doesn't allow us to put it behind the building, of course, and so there's certainly a practical difficulty in this case, and we just have to try to do the best we can to hide it and make the applicant and the owner ticketed, or maybe they have to take every resident out to Roost Chris dinner if the gates are left open or something. I obviously I'm kidding, but something that points it out.
By the way, in the address to that, I mean, not that it's going to make much of a difference now, but.
Excuse me, John. Can we just
Yes.
have your name? Can we just?
Oh,
have
I'm
your
sorry,
name?
John Rosansky. I'm the applicant.
Thank you. Just to be on the safe
I
side.
live literally around, I'm off of Gale Road and Tegadyne. So I go by there on a daily basis. So I will probably, and then I know it's just hearsay, but I will make sure, I'll beautify that thing the best I can because I know it's in a tough location. I even spoke with the, my neighbor who owns the adjacent property to it. And they're cleaning it up a little bit now, and they're telling me that they're just going to use it for boat storage. But whatever I have to do for that, I know it's, Brian has told me there's really not anywhere to put that. But I'm never leaving this lake. I've been here since '63. So if this is what's going to be a sticking point, I plan on making it to the best that I can.
Thank you, John. Any other questions of the proponent or his representative? If not, then
Madam Chair,
go ahead, Nick.
I guess I need a clarification. So, and this is just maybe where I'm misinterpreting this. So there is curbing going in, so that's good to hear. But then I'm looking at, it still appears to me that there's a request for a curbing variance. So I'm just unclear
Right.
what's going on.
So the plans didn't show it, so it was listed as a request. If they're gonna do it and you decide to approve it, then you just wouldn't grant that variance and they'd have to install the curbing.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
I'd like to discuss landscaping a little bit. I might need a little help here in what I'm trying to say, but if we do not give some recommendations, and I mean, there's several options here. Some I feel are better than others. If we approve this plan, then help me out, Justin, here. This will go to the planning commission, and
So
then
it-
what will happen with the landscaping, then we really won't be able to have any say in what our preferences are.
Right, so if you want to condition some of these variances on them applying certain types of landscaping for buffering because of setbacks or whatever, now is the time to do it, because you lose the chance it would move on from here to the township board. If they approve the preliminary site plan, they'd go back to the planning commission for final site plan, and they would have to have a landscape plan at that time incorporating any comments or conditions from the ZBA regarding landscaping into that plan.
I think it's important to address that now, seeing as that, we are going to want to buffer
You'll probably
The
want to
dump-
buffer the parking lot and the dumpster.
yeah,
You'll want to talk about that and what you want to see. Generally our landscape ordinance has standards. Shrubs around a parking lot adjoining a residential district usually require 4 feet in height at the time of planning, 3 feet in height along the front property line, and then you'd probably want some type of greenery around the dumpster, whether it's something planted 6 to 8 feet in height, whether it's arborvitae or junipers or evergreen
Right.
trees. You'd have to condition that.
so could we move forward with this by perhaps leaving it up to the planning department's discretion as to what types of plants and trees and shrubs go in?
So you'd have to get specific on the quantity and where they would be located. If you said a shrub at 4 feet in height, to be decided by the planning commission or the planning department, that would be okay. But I mean, if we're going to say evergreen, I don't think we really need to get into whether it's a Norway spruce or a hemlock. But if it's an evergreen, you should say you need to have 12 evergreens in this location that are 8 feet in height at the time of planting. That's the kind of this direction that would be needed.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that with me?
Madam Chair, John Rosansky again.
Yes.
Just so you know, the building to the north isn't, if I'm going to put this building up, it's going to look very nice. It's a very modern building that I plan on doing a nice job with. I want to buffer the surrounding areas on both sides as well. So I do plan on doing whatever's required by you as well, but I do plan on kind of isolating that building quite a bit from the surrounding sides. I want people to be looking at it saying, wow, this is pretty, it's kind of secluded, it's kind of private, it's very well maintained. That's my goal. So that goes for the shoreline as well as the building itself.
Thank you, John. Did anybody else want to jump in on Kathy's?
I'm
Comment?
I just want to say I'm agreeing with Kathy that, I mean, and what Justin is filling in on this as well. I mean, if we're going to do it, we have to do it now.
Correct.
My only concern is, you know, I'm not a landscape architect. And so just the specificity of this, how do we get it right? I mean, how do we get it right without a plan in front of ourselves and as we're doing it this way?
I agree, and I too am not well-versed in landscaping, even if I do live on 5 acres, it's buried in the woods. All to me, there are trees. Couldn't tell you what kind of, so
You've got
I-
5 acres of hedges, you're covered, right?
basically, yeah.
Yes.
So if there's no other comments from the board, then I'd like to open the public hearing up at this time. Jacob? Is there any audience?
I don't believe we have any members of the public with us currently.
Thank you. Then with that, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for additional discussion, consideration, or a motion.
Well, going back to the landscaping, and since we kind of have to nail this down, I took a few notes here, and I'm, you know, thinking that 3 to 4 foot shrubs, evergreen trees, some shade trees. Justin, could you maybe help out with any, you probably have more landscape architect experience than any of us. Could you make any recommendations?
So here's the plan. They have no room here to put trees on this west side or this northwest side. So you'd have to have shrubs. I'd suggest here 4 feet in height at the time of planting.
We put a fence there, Justin, along
I-
that property line.
Okay, I see the fence, but so you
I don't think plantings are needed against that site. What I would propose is screening the greenbelt area between the parking and running parallel to Pontiac Lake Road, certainly. And then we have quite a bit of landscaped area. If you move your cursor towards the trash enclosure, in that area where we could put shade trees, bushes, things like that. As we start to move down the hill, that's going to get more difficult for stuff to, you know, really last.
I think they're focusing around the parking.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I think John's comment was spot on, which is we really do want to, you know, provide a, you know, secluded or I don't know if we want to call it that, but something that we all feel is, you know, is needed. You know, what we have to do in Royal Oak and Ferndale is we have to provide a 3 foot high wall so that the headlights of the cars don't go out onto Pontiac Lake Road. You know, I'm not proposing that, but I think a arborvitae or a boxwood hedge or something to that effect running along in front of those car lights would be a huge benefit to, you know, to screen the parking lot, but also to screen the headlights of those cars. And then also propose shade trees, deciduous, evergreen, you know, kind of around the L, you know, as we continue down to the trash enclosure. We're also proposing, we will propose, and again, I'm an architect, not a landscape architect, but I've had to develop landscape plans for submittals, is our walk area up to the building. We want to provide landscaping there, shade trees, bushes, things like that. So again, softening the building from the parking, we feel is very important.
So there's 5 feet of space, right? But I mean, between the parking lot and the.
Yeah, they
the
could put shrubs here.
west.
So
Yeah, I'm
they
just,
could have a mulch or area and shrubs here. I know there's a fence, but I'd still think it'd be nice to have shrubs.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be, you know, oak trees or anything, but I mean, arborvitaes stay pretty, you know, pretty tight and tall and thin.
Right. I'd say a row of arborvitae here. So I'd say, probably 10 arborvitae here, so it gets a nice hedge. 6 feet in height at the time of planting. I would go over here around the dumpster. I'd do evergreens, 8 feet in height at the time of planting, so they're the same height as the wall. I'd do some type of street tree, a handful of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd probably do 4 street trees. There's no interior landscaping in the parking lot, so the zoning ordinance does require that. So you can consider, that they're lacking in that area as well. They need 15 square feet of landscaping per parking space, so that's 420 square feet. And then the zoning ordinance provides standards for what that would have to be. I don't think that they can achieve it, but they can supplement that somewhere else.
Well, remember also, we have a very wooded area down at the river too.
Right, this isn't, so you got to be called on.
Lowe's parking lot.
This isn't a discussion. You have to be called on. So we're not concerned about back by the river. We're concerned with the parking lot.
But I would like, if, when a motion is made, I would like, Justin, I hope you can reiterate that, put in the motion. I think that's a great idea.
I have a,
Or could we, in our motion, Justin, indicate that you
No, I think you need to be specific. So
be specific? Okay, so that's what I was looking for.
yeah,
Thank you.
I can help you be specific if needed. So
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's for Justin or for the applicant. What type of 6-foot fence along the northwest wall is that? Is that wood? Is that vinyl?
It was gonna be vinyl.
Vinyl.
Mhm.
Would it be white or?
It was gonna be white, correct.
And then with the landscape plan, do we need any sort of irrigation to make sure that those bushes and trees don't die?
yeah, they're going to have to irrigate it. So when this comes to the planning commission, the plan will have, the landscape plan, they'll have to have an irrigation plan. That's a requirement. So
Okay. And there's no wall on the, or fence? Is there a fence shown on, I'm looking, on the east side?
there's not, and I guess I should back up for a second. So they're showing a 6-foot tall fence, and I think it's going to this right of way line here, if I'm not mistaken. Is that where the fence
Correct.
is
Yep.
extending? So fencing has to meet the front yard setback. So you can't run a 6-foot fence all the way up to the right of way line. So that's kind of an issue.
Well, we'll just make it as long as we can make it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even, if we take it and the thing's 20 feet long, then it's 20 feet long and we'll landscape the rest of that.
Right.
But we did not show on the east, along the east line. And the reason we didn't is because, in my opinion, we don't have any cars that are facing that direction. So I didn't feel like that it was necessary to put a fence there because there aren't any car headlights facing towards that particular property. Second to that is we've pulled that parking lot away so far from that I wanted to actually create landscaping in that area. Hence why I didn't show a fence on that property line.
Any other comments? If not,
So Justin, with the front yard setback, the fence cannot go that far.
Right. The fence has to meet the front yard setback.
And would say arborvitae's have to meet that as well?
No. So it couldn't block vision, and I don't think it would if it stopped at that point. in and out of the driveway.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mike.
does it, Justin, is it, are we able, are we able to allow the fence to just be lower? Certainly not the 6 feet. My concern is again, the car lights up in that area shining on the adjacent neighbor, and vegetation has a tendency to be sparse sometimes. Are we allowed to drop it down in height to cover the headlights? Or no fence at all?
So zoning ordinance does not allow a fence in the front yard. So here's a nice graphic. And if there is a fence in the front yard, it has to be 4 feet. So
Oh,
There you go.
they can't even have a 6-foot fence because
So
it's,
you could have a 4-foot.
If you might recall it's been about 2 or 3 maybe years, we had a case with a corner that was 2 front yards on, I think, Round Lake Road maybe, or Carroll Lake, one of the two. Sorry, I got the road mixed up in my head.
So we could drop the fence once it hit the front yard to a 4-foot fence, so it could be a staggered fence.
so really in the front yard setback, they can't have a fence. And then the whole fence is in the front yard. So it'd have to be 4 feet. So this fence would have to be a 4-foot tall fence up until 40 feet from the right of way line, then the fence would have to stop.
So that's a front, that's a,
This is everything in front of this line of the building is the front yard.
got it.
So just imagine the line is like this where my cursor is kind of going back and forth. That's the front yard.
And that pertains to a multifamily also versus a single residential,
Right.
even though the parking lot's in the front yard.
So
So they could have a screen wall. So the ordinance allows a screen wall, not a fence, but an actual screen wall. And screen walls are, I'm trying to find the standard for it as we're talking. It would allow a screen wall that's 6 feet in height, so it couldn't be a fence. It'd have to be 8 inches of brick. So that's what the ordinance says, or decorative concrete. So it would allow a screen wall, but not a fence.
so the
And
proposed,
Again, it couldn't be in the front yard setback.
so as shown on the site plan, the proposed 6-foot tall fence cannot be approved, and was not approved by the planning commission, correct?
They recommended approval of the preliminary site plan, so they missed that.
So if the, let's say if the landscape wall, or the landscaped, screen was only 3 feet tall and landscaping, on both sides of it in order to provide for a more opaque look for the headlights, would that be an enhancement to the landscaping versus a fence if it was only 3 foot high interlaced with the landscaping?
Yeah, I think that's a landscape enhancement.
So are we talking that that particular screen wall would be, we would build it similar to our trash enclosure, i.e. a brick veneer? And as I think Mike's comment was, then providing landscaping in front of it. I don't think, Mike, we can provide landscaping on both sides of it because we're talking about putting our wall kind of right on the property line.
Yeah, I've always had a little trepidation with that because you as the applicant gets the beautiful landscaping and the adjacent property owner gets the view of the backside of a wall. And so I typically like it more centered in the
I don't think we have the room.
centered, because it's only 5 feet, you're right. So it would be then put in sections and maybe you jog it back and forth with landscaping. I'm just talking out loud here as an option.
I mean, I don't think, we're not opposed to providing a different type of screening, against that property line. We showed the fence only because that got brought up at our last meeting, which said basically try and figure out something to do with the headlights of the cars.
Right, so.
I don't think for us it matters. I prefer, I don't really want to see a 6-foot high fence there anyway. To be honest
No,
with
I
you.
agree.
I would prefer to see a 3-foot tall wall. Whether we do it out of, I don't know what our options are from the zoning ordinance, but, could we do a metal aluminum fence and that's narrower than a brick wall, that would allow potentially to get maybe fountain grasses or arborvitaes on both sides of that, because now we're talking about more of a minimal, thickness of wall.
Yeah, and we have to be careful. It's not a fence. It's
Yeah,
a landscape buffer enhancement.
Yep.
And if we did that along the east side, quite frankly, we ought to talk about it along Pontiac Lake Road as well, to provide for an architectural feature that kind of blocks the front end of cars that are going to be parked in through there, because landscaping is sparse, and it might be nice to have a landscape buffer enhancement there to pull your eyes away from the cars.
We are not opposed to that at all. As a matter of fact, we have 15 feet, 10 feet-ish, 15 feet to play with on parallel to Pontiac Lake Road. We got plenty of room there to provide a screen wall and landscaping on both sides.
Right.
So that I don't think we have, that in my opinion is not our issue. And we're happy to do it. I think where we run into a little bit of an issue, and Mike, I would propose that if we were to do this as a brick screen wall of some sort, I would propose bricking it on both sides, not leave block on one side and brick on the other.
Oh, absolutely. It would have to have the architectural look on both sides,
Right.
without any doubt. And I'm not looking for it to be necessarily all the way across from back to front. Maybe in sections to provide for some architectural style. It's almost like a columns in a building versus a flat building.
I think it'd be nice if there's a screen wall, and then like Mr. Powell said, you break it up and maybe you put like a wrought iron fence and run it until the screen wall picks up.
Yes.
You see that, that's pretty common.
Yeah.
So
We would agree with that.
Is there any plans for any kind of sign for this? Like a monument sign stating whatever the name of the complex would be?
We had not actually talked about that. John and I had not. We do have to put address numbers for the fire department. What I typically do on most of my projects is I mount letters or numbers on the screen wall, so that everybody can see the address, of the particular building. Our intent was not to create a pylon sign or a monument sign or anything like that. That was not our intent.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair.
Yes,
So
Nick.
I'm 100% agreeing, that we need to have the landscaping thing figured out. and I'm very much appreciating this conversation and the ideas that are flying around. I'm just wondering, to get to a point to vote on this, I mean, are we diving to such a detail where we need to see something to be voting on it?
I was thinking that too.
I'm not trying to put undue burden on the applicant. I'm just trying to, it's just, I think we're at a point here where a lot of ideas are flying around, and
Well, can I recommend this?
go up, but just after I finish, So, I mean, I just think some visual clarity for us, and then, you know, when it goes to the township board, it would allow them to see exactly what we've discussed. So that's my thoughts, Madam Chair.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Yep.
Any additional comments?
Well, I'm not going to speak for John on this one, but I'm going to speak for John. And we've been down this road twice already with you guys. And this should not be a deal breaker, but for John, it might be a deal breaker. And I don't understand why you guys can't defer to Justin or Sean O'Neill to make the decision from an administrative standpoint on this particular item.
I guess if
Back to you again.
I guess there's one option that if Justin wanted to be as tough as he possibly could, I guess you would have the option of bringing it back if you didn't agree with how tough our planning department was being on you. So we could certainly have it that way. Because
The appeal process, Mr. Powell, is that what you mean?
Yeah, have the applicant, if they didn't like how tough the planning department was being on them, they could come back to us and bring it back to us as a final arbiter on the final design of the landscaping. I guess I just haven't, and maybe, I'm not sure if we did this. Did we go through our discussion of the 5 or 6 points yet?
Not yet, Mike.
Because it's, in my opinion, it's not necessarily a slam dunk that they get any variances.
Right. No, I haven't asked Justin to do that yet. I wanted us to finish our discussions before I moved on.
Yes.
So go ahead, Debbie.
I only, and I do think we need to go through all the standards, but as far as the landscaping and the screen wall on both the west and Pontiac Lake Road side, I would say, because I'm certainly not a landscape architect either, and there are so many different options there to make it look nice, I guess I would probably like to dump it back onto the planning department and say, per the planning department, we do a screen wall with plantings per the planning department. That recommendation, that would be my my thought on the wall. I realize we still need to go through all the other variances with the standards.
I like that idea.
I do too. Now, if they hadn't have, I think the owner knows that I would have had it out with them a little bit if they hadn't have brought up the curbing. There's no excuse not to have curbing around this site. And so that would have been an argument by me, but I'm going to be interested in discussing each of the variances individually.
So I think when we go through the standards, we should go through each of the requests and go through each of the standards. So I know it may be more time consuming to do it that way, but I think that's how we need to do it.
Well, with that then, Justin, can we go through the standards from Article 7.37 of the clear zoning ordinance? Variance by variance, please.
So we'll start with the side yard setback. So A, practical difficulty. A practical difficulty exists on the subject site, and strict compliance with the zoning ordinance standards would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the subject site for a permitted use or would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome, demonstration of a practical difficulty shall not have a bearing on the subject site or use of the subject site and not to the applicant personally. Economic hardship or optimum profit potential are not considerations for practical difficulty.
Thank you.
So the number of, so in
And
terms
again,
of,
and again, this is just for the side yard setback. So we'll go
Correct.
through the other ones.
I think it'll apply to a few of them. So I'll begin with this one. The parking lot will be dependent on the number of units in the building. And again, I seem to be recalling, I guess I could have gone back and watched our YouTube video. It is a reduction. I appreciate that, from 4 to 12. I don't know. I just seem to recall a 3-unit reduction being discussed. But then again, as we just had with our landscaping conversation, you know, a lot of things were discussed. So it's kind of it was a conversation, but
So is this, or you're talking about the parking lot, not the building? We can lump the side yard setbacks together if you want.
well, that's where I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just really, yeah, well, yes. I'm going to pause for now and just listen.
So let me understand, Justin, then are we now talking about variance number 1 for the side yard setback?
Yes, for the,
Variance, just that one, or also variance 4 for the parking setback?
I was just
side yard?
talking about variance 1 for the building.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Okay, that's where I misunderstood. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
And thank you for that clarification.
From my standpoint, this site itself has a number of built-in hardships. With this particular zoning, in order to even use this site for the zoning classification, it's got a number of drawbacks that are real to the owner and the applicant. The width issue is certainly a concern, but with that natural feature setback, in order to do anything at all on this site, there are certain standards that have to be met. And if you can't provide at least a certain threshold of density on a site, it quite frankly can never be done to ours, to the townships, nor the applicant's desire as far as a decent development. So in this particular case, I believe that the applicant has worked with the township and has recognized the fact that there is a practical difficulty and a non-self-imposed hardship with the natural feature setback and the narrowness of this particular site.
I agree, Mike.
So do you want to do the variances by the list? Or you want me to go through all the standards for each one and then we'll go back to variance 2?
Let's do it by the, let's address each of the items by one at a time, and I'm sorry, let's go down through the variances and discuss each one of them on the practical difficulty aspect, because it may knock some of them out.
Right, so
That's
the
true.
next one, so the next variance 2, minimum lot width, 30-foot variance requested, 200 feet is required, 170 feet is the current width of the parcel.
Well, it's got to be a practical difficulty because
Yeah.
not 200 feet wide.
Right, right.
I definitely see the practical difficulty.
Yes.
So if there's no more discussion on that one, I'm going to skip number 3 because they've indicated that they're going to install concrete curbing. So 4, parking setback side yard They're requesting a 16.5-foot variance on the east side and a 65-foot variance on the west side.
And they did reduce that somewhat, did they not, Justin?
Yes, last time they were 5 feet on each side. Now the east side is 13.5 feet. So that's another 8.5 feet gained on the east side.
And again, we have the practical difficulty of the width of the parcel.
Mhm.
Right.
The
Absolutely.
reality are just the drive itself and determines, sets certain widths. And quite frankly, you just can't serve any building of any kind at all, really, with the width of this site.
A question?
Yep.
I know that there's requirements for number of parking spaces, but I'm wondering if we could reduce some of the other variance requests by having a different variance for number of parking spaces. I haven't done the math in my head, nor will I even try, but that's just a thought. Justin, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, I would say if there's less parking spaces, then there would probably be a greater buffer or setback from the lot lines. They didn't request a variance for the number of parking spaces. I think that this may have come up at the last meeting. I think maybe even Mr. Powell brought it up that he'd consider a variance for less parking spaces than the ordinance would require if the setbacks on the sides were increased.
I remember that as well. Yeah. But for clarification, that would have to be publicized for us to vote on it, correct or not?
Correct.
We chose not to do that for purposes of the fact that we did feel that by the reduction of the 2 units, it did reduce parking spaces as well as one guest parking spot. We chose not to ask for any variance reduction, thinking that 2-bedroom units really probably will have 2 cars. And so we really didn't want to, and I think this came up at the last meeting where it was asked for us to look at maybe taking and providing some green paver concept over on the recreation area across the road. We again chose not to do that either. Even if we eliminated, even if say guest parking got eliminated, 5 spaces, we're still going to need a variance one way or the other on either the east or west side. It's because the ordinance clearly doesn't want parking in front of a building, nor do we. But unfortunately, this site dictates us to have to put parking on the front of the building. And so that's where all these parking variances are coming from. We would prefer to flip it in like we did 3 designs ago, but you couldn't afford to do it. And we priced it out, and it was ridiculously expensive to try and drop that parking behind the building. So hence why we're here today.
And the good thing for the potential residents would be, I mean, even though it's a little bit of a pain to try to, I know little is an understatement, to try to get this to work. I mean, the good news is there's going to be a beautiful view of the river, and that'd be a nice trade-off.
True.
I think the parking setbacks, again, are the front parking setback from the front is due to the natural features in the back, which everything being squished in there.
Personally, I would even if it was even just a 50-50 coin toss, I'd rather have the parking away from the river. I mean, that's just, and again, I think people living there may enjoy the view better, but just in terms of runoff and everything, just.
Well, that did allow us to put this natural walk mulch walk that we're putting behind it, where if I had parking back there, then all of a sudden that gets eliminated. So now you've
Right.
really,
Yeah.
you've magnified the problem, both from a runoff standpoint, but also you've killed the view.
Yeah, and I'm even just thinking of the, I don't, and it's probably not even relevant, but I mean, I'm just thinking of the cars can drip things, oil, everything. So it's just better to keep it away from the river. Back to the side yard
Salt.
setback. Yeah, exactly. But back to, I mean, I'll tell you, I just think the whole property really does, it screams practical difficulty. I mean, I just think in all of this, it just does. I mean, there's, we're not talking about just a uniform piece of property that's fairly flat and doesn't have water next to it and, et cetera. I mean, I'm not going to jump ahead into the unique situation thing, but I guess it'd be probably more relevant to that. I very clearly see the practical difficulty running down the list, not with the curb thing, of course, which has been bumped out, but that's where I'm at on that.
And I, as a township resident, will enjoy driving Pontiac Lake Road and seeing the lake. I'd rather see all the parking together than have parking blocking the view from the public right of way out to the water to the east. And so I'd much rather see a variance keeping all the parking together than spreading it all out and blocking the view of the natural view to the east.
Sure.
Well, Mike, it's funny because we thought the same thing. As John and I were diving into this, we said, you know what? The whole point of this thing is the views out. And as I'm driving down Pontiac, I don't want to turn to my right and see the backs of cars when I can't, when he wants to do a fire pit out there, he wants to do, kayaks, things like that. I mean, that's the beauty of it.
So, Madam Chair, where are we on the variances with the
We are on, we are discussing parking setback, front yard setback, article or variance number 5.
Okay, so we're still there and we haven't moved to dumpsters yet. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
But do we agree that we all see a practical difficulty there?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Justin?
So the next one is dumpster enclosure. This one's 2 parts. So they're requesting a 2.5 foot variance to be in the front yard setback. So they're 37.5 feet instead of 40 feet from the right of way line. And then they're projecting 38 feet in front of the building. So they need a 38-foot variance.
Oh, I think we've explored every option for the dumpster.
And there's no other place for it,
Right.
or no dumpster at all. And then what do you do with the trash?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on then to a unique situation, Justin.
So unique situation, the demonstrated practical difficulty results from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the subject site at the time the ordinance was adopted or amended, which are different than typical properties in the same zoning district or vicinity.
Well, I think that
Yeah.
just the fact that it's a non-conforming lot is going to make it unique.
And then you just happen to throw in the river.
Exactly.
And the width.
Just for fun. Just
Yeah,
throw in
just-
the river for fun.
Well, I wasn't going to do it for fun, but
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I definitely see there's a unique situation myself.
yeah. And that, and I'm assuming that, are you going through them all over again, Justin, or are we just going to now?
That's up to you if you want to go through them individually and say if there's a unique situation applying to each one or not.
Board members?
So I'll just quickly, so it's a 30-foot variance for the side yard setback.
Yes,
And then 30-foot variance for the lot width,
right,
16.5 feet on the east side for the parking lot, 65 feet on the west side,
right.
30 feet for the front. And again, 2.5 feet into the front yard for the dumpster and 38 feet in front of the building.
And I do see it unique in all of them because of the lot itself. C, please, not self-created.
The applicant's problem is not self-created.
The applicant didn't put the river there, correct?
Well, I don't know. I was just gonna ask him that.
Okay.
And I don't think he shorted himself on the land either, so I definitely,
I wish we could adjust it and move it.
I know, sorry to put that in, yeah, no.
you go through them again, Justin. Let's make this nice and neat for Hannah to type up, and if we had to be in court, for our attorneys to be able to say that we followed each and every step. So
We did not believe the applicant placed the river there. Yes.
no, we did not.
A 30, again, it's a 30-foot variance for the side yard setback in standard C, not self-created. 30-foot variance for lot width, standard C, which is not self-created. 4, because we're skipping 3, 6.5 feet on the east, 65 feet on the west for standard C, 30 feet on the front yard parking setback for standard C, and then dumpster, 2 parts, 2.5 feet into the front yard for standard C, and 38 feet in front of the building for standard C.
And I believe we all agree on that as well, board members.
Yes.
I see thumbs up and heads shaking. So moving on to substantial injustice, please.
The variance would provide substantial justice by granting property rights similar to those enjoyed by the majority of other properties in the vicinity and other properties in the same zoning district. The decision shall not bestow upon the property special development rights not enjoyed by other properties in the same district or which might result in substantial adverse impacts on properties in the vicinity.
Personally, I think, just trying to think of how to say this. I think considering, how these projects could be done on this road, this to me is where the improvement thing really clearly comes in. And if other people have the ability to place certain things on properties, this is certainly allowing the applicant to do this, I think, grants substantial justice, and in that it will be certainly enhancing that part of the road.
I agree, Nick. And with that, E, please, Justin. Excuse me.
The variance shall be the minimum necessary to grant relief created by the practical difficulty.
Well, I do believe that the proponent has worked well to make certain that what appeared before us in February has been downsized. So I think that he couldn't get any more, requesting lesser than what he's asking for now. So I think that we are at the minimum for this project. My personal opinion.
I'd also like to add in that I appreciate, I know it's only a few feet, but it was a few feet to make it work. I really appreciate that the natural feature setback's no longer an issue. That was important to me.
Me too.
So I believe, thank you. So seeing those, I can see the yeoman's effort to really make this work on this property.
Thank you. With that then, having gone through all the standards, would somebody like to make a motion?
So a point of information, how are we going to specify this landscaping piece? Is it going to be, do we say department, or do we actually name, do we name somebody in the department, or we just say the department? How is this operating?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but I would believe that we would just simply reference the planning department.
You could. I just want to make sure that while you give enough to be specific, so I don't want to be challenged, or else they're going to be back here. I'm not saying that they will challenge me, but I think you should be really clear on what you're wanting to see. So. It doesn't have to get specific with quantity, but I think we can talk generally about, and as a condition, the landscape plan shall be subject to approval by the planning department, including features, what we list or what you list. So whether that's a 3-foot masonry screen wall, a brick screen wall in certain locations with, wrought iron fence in sections or certain areas that you'd like to see shrubs. I just would talk generally about what you want to see, and then leave it up to our department to approve it.
And as a clarification with that, we are defining walls, screens, all of that as landscaping.
Right, a screen wall is a landscape feature.
Okay, just for the clarification for the whole thing, yeah.
So it's not a fence, so we won't call it a fence, because that's not what it is.
Okay, thank you.
And an additional clarification then, Justin, is this where we would include
The
how
dumpster.
we want the dumpster?
Yeah, you would
Okay.
include how you want the dumpster here as well.
All right, so I know I've said this in the past, and I'm very happy to say it in the future, and I'm definitely saying it now. I can't make the motion, so which one of you want to try it? I mean, I know nothing about landscaping, so I'm looking for a motion.
Nick, you've probably taken more notes.
No.
Come on, Nick.
If I try to make this motion, there's going to be it's going to look like a mini golf course out there, and I don't think that's what they want. So I'm trying to.
I can help you if you need help.
You put that whole packet together, Nick. We have faith in you.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, I appreciate the peer pressure. Okay, I will take a swing at this, and I will gladly accept corrections that remind me how I meant to say it as I'm making the motion.
And I'll just say real quick before you get into it, when you read, you're going to scratch out 5.11.Q.18.
Yep.
So.
Okay, and I'm looking at our I'm trying to see where that is actually at the moment in the paragraph.
It's
in the
almost
second line.
Most of the bottom.
Just that last line, variance is granted to waive the installation. Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to read this, and I'm going to, after the last, a permit from the Michigan, from MDE, that's where I'm going to pause to try to get the memory here of what we're exactly asking. We're going to ask the planning department to do this with the following, I would say, recommendations. Is that correct? Correct word?
Requirements.
With the following requirements. Okay, here we go. I move, that's as far as I've gotten. I move to approve the variances requested by John Rosansky from Articles 3.1.9.9E. I want to make sure I don't read the name and number for the curbing here. That's the Q1, correct? Okay. 5.11.A.3, 5.11.A.4, and 5.9.N.I.C of the zoning ordinance for parcel number 12-13-328-003, identified as 8565 Pontiac Lake Road, in order to construct an apartment building that would encroach 30 feet into the required west side yard setback. Parking setback variances are granted to encroach 30 feet into the required front yard setback, are granted to encroach 65 feet into the required west side yard setback, and 16.5 feet into the required east side yard setback. A 2.5 foot variance and 38-foot variance are granted to allow the dumpster enclosure to encroach into the required front yard setback and project in front of the principal building. A 30-foot variance from the required lot width is also granted. This approval will have the following conditions. The first
Before you-
condition.
Nick,
Yep.
can you go back up? You said 5.9, point N, point I, point C, and my packet says 5.19. I want a clarification on that first. I want to make,
I meant to say 5.19, point N, point I, point C. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
I just wanted to make sure that we got it right. Okay, I'm sorry for
Glad-
interrupting.
No. Thank you. Following conditions, the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the White Lake Township Building Department. The applicant shall receive preliminary site plan approval from the Township Board and final site plan approval from the Planning Commission. A permit from the Road Commission for Oakland County, RCOC, shall be required for all work within the Pontiac Lake Road right-of-way. A permit from the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE, shall be required for stormwater discharge into the Huron River wetland. And landscaping, a landscape plan will be approved by the planning department with the following requirements noted by the board. Those would include, please help me here.
A 3-foot brick screen wall
A 3-foot brick screen wall.
along, and then wherever you want it. Was it the
east and the north,
Along
west
the-
and the north?
the west, the west.
Along the northwest,
The north and west property lines.
yes, northwest property line.
Yep.
So,
Yep, north and west property lines.
and
You
so help me
want-
with the
you
arborvitae's, or but let me just this, yeah.
You wanted, was it arborvitae along that west? Was it like 10 arborvitae that were 6 feet in height along the west side of the parking lot? Was that what
10.
you wanted?
Yeah, 10 arborvitae along the west side of the parking lot. Thank you for bringing that back up. Okay,
You had said something about landscaping around the dumpster,
mhm.
8 feet in height at the time of planting, some type of evergreen trees. And I would say, I don't know how many you said. Was it six evergreen in this area around the dumpster, 8 feet in height at the time of planting? I can't remember what you said.
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling, and because we also had in terms of the facade as well, right?
Yeah, so we can go back to that. Did you say
Who was it?
street trees, or I can't remember that not with the screen wall?
It also had to do with matching the facade of the building.
Yeah, so you said that the dumpster enclosure shall match the same brick as the facade of the building.
The dumpster enclosure will match, the brick will match the facade of the building.
Wooden gate,
What was that again?
with wooden gate.
Wooden gate,
With a wooden gate.
painted white.
Was it a metal backed wooden gate painted white?
Correct. That's
A
my,
metal backed wooden gate painted white, okay. And then how do I specify landscaping on the east side?
I can't remember what you wanted here, if it was junipers or arborvitae or evergreen trees. I can't remember what the discussion was. I thought it was something at least 8 feet in
I
height.
would
Yeah,
suggest.
quite frankly, what Mr. Howard said sounded fantastic. I just can't remember all the details, so.
I would suggest evergreen around there because you're not going to lose leaves. You're not going to, it'll screen it year round.
Okay,
And I would do 3 sides of that trash enclosure to really completely screen it from a landscape standpoint.
So when we're
Okay, so-
talking evergreen, do you want like,
Like a juniper, like a taller juniper.
well, they need to specify here because
It could
evergreen,
be a spruce trees.
Yeah.
You know, something dense, right? Is I
right?
think what you're going for.
Okay, so then I would say juniper. So and then on the east side, landscape it with
On the
three,
north,
on three
you want-
sides of the dumpster and surrounding area with junipers, or I would even just say an equivalent dense evergreen.
You should just say a continuous border around this area. A
Continuous border around this area.
Yeah, because you're
Yes.
going to be somewhat limited on getting 8-foot trees.
Yeah.
You are going to be limited on that. So
You could say equivalent, you know, something equivalent
That's
to.
what I'm thinking, the equivalents. Yeah. Something with an equivalent density.
Oh, we wanted 8 feet, correct?
You can buy stuff 8 feet in height. I've seen
Yeah.
it all summer long. So
well, you can.
Okay,
Yeah.
so with a minimum of 8 feet in height. Walls are no longer an issue, correct? Just want to make sure I'm getting all this stuff out here.
yeah, I think you got the
Yeah.
screen wall along the west side property parking lot and along the north
And the
side.
north side.
I don't know if you wanted street trees. I thought that was discussed at some point.
Was that? I don't have a note on that. I don't disagree. I just don't have a note on that.
I thought it was 4 street trees is what came up.
Okay.
I would provide. Yeah, we would provide 4 to 5 shade trees along parallel.
Okay.
No,
So then a minimum of 4 to 5
Yeah.
shade trees along Pontiac Lake Road.
between the sidewalk and the new fence. Sorry, not the fence. Between the new
Mhm.
wall.
So between the, well, yeah, I mean, it's clear where it's gonna go, so, okay. Anything else, fellow members, that we missed?
You took all of my notes.
Just
That was, yes, Debbie? Mr. Hart?
reference so that the planning commission has
I'm so sorry, please say that again.
the planning commission has the final say on approving the landscape screening.
Should I specify that as well?
Well, I guess we have to say here, so these conditions would have to be satisfied in order for the planning commission to approve the landscape plan. So if the ZBA is requiring conditions, when the planning commission reviews the final landscape plan, they'll be the one to make sure that, well, one, if it doesn't meet it, they'll be back here, but the planning commission ultimately does approve the landscape plan and they'll make sure that these conditions were satisfied. Is that what you were getting at, Debbie? When this comes back to the planning commission for final site plan, they'll have to show that all of these requirements were met.
Right.
Do I need to say that?
No, because that's implied that
Okay,
the ordinance requires that the planning commission,
Did
When
we
they-
address, sorry,
go ahead.
I don't remember, did we address the perimeter curbing and guttering in this yet?
Yeah, they're not getting a variance for that and they're going. to-
Okay, don't need to include that. Okay.
Do we have a support on Nick's motion? I don't think he's gonna want to go through it
cleanest
again.
motion, yeah, and Nick, please repeat that motion again for us so we can hear it again.
Well, I'm gonna make sure Hannah got it all first. Do we have a support first?
I'll support.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Debbie. Debbie can support.
Kathy, go. Kathy supported.
Debbie supported. Hannah, did you get all of that?
Who supported?
Debbie?
Got it.
Oh. Okay.
Okay,
Hannah, did you get all that?
I did.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you,
Me-
Hannah.
You're welcome. All right, you ready for a roll call?
Yes,
You
please.
sound as excited as I was to try to remember all that.
Shellac,
I guess I made the motion, so I will be voting yes.
DeHart,
Yes.
Powell,
Boston.
You're muted, Mike.
Mike is muted. He's in a car traveling, so oh, there you go. Mike, she called your name.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Estelstein,
Yes,
Censor.
Yes, you have your variances, gentlemen. You have,
Thank you.
please give staff a week or so to get a rough draft copy of the minutes. You'll need them. Also, remember, you have to pull your building permit within 6 months, or you will be back before us again.
Don't want that.
That's gonna be a bit difficult, I think, with having to go through 2 more approvals before we even can submit for a building permit.
Those are the rules, though. I don't know if we can get around them. Can we, Justin?
That's what the ordinance says. So
Okay.
Congratulations, though, and thank you for all the work that you've
Yes,
done.
thank you. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Okay.
Appreciate
Good
it.
night.
Yeah.
Thank you. Our
Thank
next case is Scott A. Summers, 7032 Biscayne Avenue, also identified as 1228-102-003. The applicant requests to construct an addition to a single-family house, requesting variances from Article 3.1.5.e, R1C, single-family residential, side yard setback, and minimum lot width. Variance from Article 7.28A, repairs and maintenance of non-conforming structures will be required due to both the value of improvements and the increase in cubic content. For the record, 21 owners or occupants within 300 feet were notified of the proposed variance request. No letters received in favor, no letters received in opposition, no letters returned by United States Mail. And with that, may we have staff report, please?
So this property is just over 0.6 of an acre in size. It's located on Lake Neva and zoned R1C, single family. The existing house on the property is approximately 1,900 square feet in size. The applicant is proposing to construct an addition on the rear side of the home, and then the project also includes adding a deck off the rear of the addition. So the current house is non-conforming. It's located 5.3 feet from the east side property line. A minimum 10-foot side yard setback is required. The parcel is also non-conforming due to an 18.3-foot deficiency in lot width. In R1C, the minimum width required is 100 feet. So the proposed addition is 444 square feet in size and located 6.6 feet from the east side lot line. The proposed deck is 148 square feet in size. The architectural plans note added area would be 535 square feet. The addition and deck total 592 square feet in size. Additionally, the architectural plans, where are we here? Sorry if you get seasick while the plans are being scrolled through. The architectural plans show the roof overhang located 5.25 feet from the east side property line. The proposed side setback, which is, again, they're requesting a variance for a side yard setback to be 3.4 feet. So, or 3.4 foot variance for a 6.6 foot 5 or 6.6 side yard setback. So with a 1.5 foot overhang with that setback, the roof would actually be 5.1 feet from the east side property line. So the board approves the request. The plans will just need to be revised for consistency. Then Article 7, Section 28 of the zoning ordinance states, repairs and maintenance to non-conforming structures cannot exceed 50% of the SEV, state equalized value, in any 12 consecutive months. Based on the SEV of the structure, which is $99,600, the maximum extent of improvements cannot exceed $49,800. Value of the proposed work is $96,000. So a variance to exceed the allowed value of improvements by 193% is being requested. So again, just in summary, the side yard setback variance request is 3.4 feet to allow a 6.6 foot side yard setback. 18.3 foot variance for the lot width and a 193% variance for the value of improvement. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
I'll have one, and I'll just sort of ask it right now because it'll give Mr. Summers a chance to just kind of think about it too. It's appearing to me that maybe the one side yard setback, the house couldn't move any further over because there's a window there. And it's seeming that might be the issue.
Yeah, this is Scott
I-
Summers.
Oh, I'm
with
sorry.
Skate
Well, we'll get to you in a second.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted me to reply.
No,
No problem.
I'm actually just giving you a chance to think about
Okay.
what I'm going to be asking a little here, but is there, I mean, I'm just trying to think, Justin, is there any other reason that you'd see why we wouldn't, why that wouldn't move over other than a window, or?
I believe that was I think that's the case the applicant is going to make, is that there is a window there.
Okay,
And I think that was their case that they were going to
cool.
make.
Okay, that's helpful.
Any other questions of staff?
Justin, do you know the year this house was built?
Yes, I do. And I had that. And for some reason, I didn't put it in the report. So hold on, I have it in my notes here. I don't know why I didn't write it down. This house was built in, bear with me. (1960).
So in 1960, those setbacks would have been approved when they constructed the house. They received a building permit to construct the house in that location.
I don't know what the setbacks were in 1960.
Were you even born then? No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions of staff? If not, then Scott, give us your case, please.
All right, well, thank you guys for taking the review here. And yeah, I've kind of gone through the proper channels, I think, of talking to Bruce Larson in our neighborhood, the Lakewood Village, individual who handles all the construction. And I came up to the township hall to make sure we're doing this right from day one, because I didn't want to do this twice. So in talking to Justin and Dawn in the office, you guys have been helpful in explaining what needs to be done from day one. And ideally, we'd love to build this structure straight off the house, the existing house, so it doesn't ruin the consistency of the side of the building, even though it's close. And with the side window, I believe Nicholas, you had said that, yes, there is consistency with the way the house is built, that if you move it over too far, then you got to move windows. And then it just ruins the whole back of the home. And this being a lake room off the house, we're just trying to keep it consistent, make it look really nice. And we're going to put, anything we need to do to make it look nice on the sides and landscaping and everything, whatever needs to be done. But we wanted to originally keep it straight and build a lake room off the back. And in talking to Justin, the overhang is, as you had said, is built in 1960. A lot of things were different back then. And we'd like to keep that same overhang because it keeps the same consistency of the roof instead of moving it over and then having a move inward. But we did revise the plans per Justin's request to make sure that happened. So with as it is now, it's a weird setback. It's I think zone 6 of our lake, and it's kind of cut like a bad pizza, right? Every piece of the pie is a little bit different, so we've had to work with whoever we need to work with to make sure that we come off the side where you guys want it. Lakewood Village is 10 and 10, or 10 and 5 because of the way it is. You're 10 and 10. So I think we've done everything we need to do from our end to make it consistent, make it look nice, go by the rules, and do whatever needed to happen. If I can address the $96,000, if anybody's bought a 2x4 lately, it was $1.95 last year. It is now $7. One sheet of plywood was $12 a year ago, and now it's $62. That's just wood. That doesn't include all the other stuff that's gone up. I mean, anything you look at has gone up. So this is in the builder's estimate, a $40 to $50,000 project, maybe 60, depending on how it looks in the end, but we have to pay it now because he's right, and it's just the way it is. Cost is not going down. So we want to have this room. We love the lake. We love Lakewood Village, and this is what we want to do, and extend this house and make it the best we can look and keep it consistent with the house. If we have to move it in as the plans show 12 inches to make it over just a little bit, as you see in the plans, we will definitely do that. Ideally, we'd love to keep it flat, straight with the existing home, to make sure that it looks from the lake. If you move it over, it will look a little bit weird, but we can move it over 12 inches and not affect the window, Nicholas, that you had mentioned. If we move it any more over, then it really screws up everything. And if we could keep it, ideally, our first thing when Justin and I talked was to keep it straight on the end with the consistent overhang, which is, it's nice, it's porchy, and anyway, if we could keep it that way, we'd like it. But if we have to go with the variances we have now to get it done, then we'd be willing to make those accommodations in front of the board today.
Thank you. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, and I guess this is a question for you, but it's gonna loop Justin into. I'm just looking at the overhang. It looks like the overhang would need like 5.3 feet. Is that correct, from the edge of the property line? Not the.
So the roof overhang would be 5.3 feet, is what they're showing on the architectural plans. When you do the math with the side yard setback at 6.6 feet with a 1.5 foot overhang, it's 5.1 feet. So it's, again, it's still 5 feet. It would be over 5 feet away, which is the minimum that it has to be at.
And again, for clarification, do we include the overhang into the variance amount or just the wall?
So the variance is to the wall, but the plan, if you're inclined to approve the request, it has to be approved as shown. So they can't, I know he talked about having it flush with the existing house. Our zoning ordinance does not allow that. You don't have the authority to allow it. So.
Yeah, we're not legally allowed to go anything past 5 feet at all. I mean, or under, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And if I could say something, that's the reason why we made that accommodation. I thank you for, Justin letting us know about that. We made that accommodation, resubmitted it to you, so it would be correct.
And this is just a total curiosity question because this house looks so familiar. Are you the one with all the great Christmas lights, or is that like one of your neighbors? Because is that you? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
When I saw the house, and I will tell you, my wife and kids and I drove by on the way back from a trip to Ann Arbor. My wife said, "This sounds so familiar, this address." And then we looked over, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure we spent somewhere around a Christmas Eve looking at your house. So,
thank you. Yeah, we love it. We love doing it every year, and it's just something that makes everybody happy. We're at the beginning of the neighborhood, so when you drive by, everybody's got to see it.
Thanks for indulging my selfish question there. That's totally unrelated to what we're doing. Okay.
Any other questions for Scott? Go ahead, Kathy.
I'd like to ask the applicant what he would consider as a practical difficulty in this situation.
In the current way it stands, as the current plan that you see now in front of you?
Yes, because, well, we'll get into that, and we're watching, but we have to base our decisions on not increasing, the non-compliance, and also when we do grant that, we have to have a reason, practical difficulty as to why this, what is unique about your situation, why we should allow this variance.
Well, I think if you look, and I'm learning in all this stuff, and as when I talked to Justin and Dawn at the very beginning, I was just very open. I didn't know how this worked. I just wanted to put a lake room on the back of the house, and I didn't really know it, and failed all this, which, I understand now. You want to make things look right. You got one shot, and that's why I wanted to do it right from the very beginning. So the way this property is like I had said, it's like you cut a piece of pizza. You cut it a little bit wrong. Well, this one part of Lakewood Village, which is like 7 or 8 lots, I think, it's all cut on a weird angle. my neighbor's driveway's in the other neighbor's driveway if you do a survey. And they went to court and spent $30,000 to find the plot. So with the difficulty we have here is as you move from the front of the house to the left, it seems to get more narrower on every left side of the home than the right. So it makes it difficult to build and then not be in somebody's way, right? So with this one, with the neighbors on both sides, we don't have any difficulties now, but the difficulty wasn't at the very beginning. It was just adhering to the rules that you had to make sure that we did it the right way and weren't too close to the home. And so that's why we moved it over 12 inches, which allows for that overhang that we were talking about. That makes it work. Without that, then that would be the biggest difficulty. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. When
Okay.
we probably can move a little further down and ask the question, maybe it'll become more apparent,
Okay.
as to what we're looking for.
I'm sorry?
Any other questions? Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, no, I thought there was something else I need to answer. I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of the proponent? If not, Jacob, can we open the public hearing up, please?
Yes, we can. If any members of the public would like to speak, it is *9 to raise your hand, and give it a couple seconds here. Again, it's *9 to raise your hand if you'd like to speak to the board. I'm not seeing any hands, so I think you guys can continue if you'd like.
Thank you, Jacob. I will close the public hearing then and bring it back to the board for discussion or a motion.
One of the things I sometimes point out, I really appreciated that it does not appear to be blocking view lines of next door neighbors.
Yes. If we have no further discussion, then Justin, can we go through the standards for 7.37, please?
Standard A, practical difficulty. A practical difficulty exists on the subject site, and strict compliance with the zoning ordinance standards would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the subject site for a permitted use, or would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome. Demonstration of a practical difficulty shall have a bearing on the subject site or use of the subject site, not to the applicant personally. Economic hardship or optimum profit potential are not considerations for practical difficulty.
Board members, any discussion on this?
I don't think that the applicant has any control over the shape of this lot. And I appreciate the fact that he actually jogged the addition off of the corner of the building specifically to lessen the variance needed. So I think he really thought a great deal about this and provided a not only addressed the difficulties, but gave as minimum variance as they could.
Okay, there's no other,
And I apologize for not bringing this up in the general discussion. Justin, do we know how far the neighboring house is from that side yard line?
Let me look here. They appear to be about 10 feet.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay.
B, unique situation, Justin?
Demonstrated practical difficulty results from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the subject site at the time the ordinance was adopted or amended, which are different than typical properties in the same zoning district or vicinity.
And I'm working on the assumption that everything was, built in 1960 as it should have been built. I'm seeing the location of the window. I'm definitely seeing that as causing an issue. I realize that has less to do with the property, more to do with, but it's still with something that was approved at one point.
Okay, C, not self-created.
The applicant's problem is not self-created.
Well, I don't think Scott deliberately built this house back in 1960 like this, so I think it's not self-created myself, but could be wrong.
Yeah, in 51 years, I'm looking forward to having a problem with this.
I was -3.
Okay, there you go. See, I knew you had nothing to do with this. Substantial justice, D, please.
The variance would provide substantial justice by granting the property rights similar to those enjoyed by the majority of other properties in the vicinity, and other properties in the same zoning district. The decision shall not bestow upon the property special development rights not enjoyed by other properties in the same district, or which might result in substantial adverse impacts on properties in the vicinity.
I see this as being in alignment with other houses, and because it does not appear to block view lines, I don't believe that it denies neighbors of anything.
I agree. E, minimum variance necessary.
The variance shall be the minimum variance necessary to grant relief created by the practical difficulty.
And as Mike said earlier, the fact that he chose to move it in and not go straight on the footpath of the existing house, I believe shows that he's definitely meeting that requirement.
Mhm.
With that, then, may we have a motion, please? You can't make Nick do this one because this one.
I'm still recharging my battery.
Yes, he did enough already.
All right, I'll do it.
Thank you, Kathy.
I move to approve the variance requested by Scott Summers from Article 3.1.5E and Article 7.28.A of the zoning ordinance for parcel number 1228-102-003, identified as 7032 Biscayne Avenue, in order to construct an addition that would encroach 3.4 feet into the required east side yard setback and exceed the allowed value of improvement to a non-conforming structure by 193%. An 18.3-foot variance from the lot required lot width is also granted from Article 3.1.5E. This approval will have the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the White Lake Township Building Department. An as-built survey shall be required to verify the roof overhang setback from the east side lot. The plan shall be revised for consistency to clarify the roof overhang setback.
And do we have a support?
I will support that. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Maybe have a roll call, Hannah, please.
Yep, Castletime,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Powell. Powell,
Mike's muted again.
I don't actually see him.
Well, there he is.
Oh, there he is.
Yes, I am so sorry. I'm having a hard time here.
You're fine.
sir?
You're fine.
Yes. Scott, you got your variance. Give staff a week or so to get a rough draft copy of the minutes. You'll need to take them to the building department to proceed from this point forward. And keep in mind that you have to pull a building permit within 6 months or you'll be back before us again.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. I appreciate everything. I hope that,
Not a problem.
hopefully we have this thing built in 6 months.
Good. Just in time for Christmas.
There you go.
Look forward to
Enjoy
seeing the
light.
lights. Oh,
I do too.
Yeah. Oh. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Our next case is David Nimshik. I hope I pronounced that right. 9323 Gale Road, also identified as 1211-451-019. The applicant requests to construct an addition to a single-family house requiring variances from Article 3.1.6.e R1D, single-family residential, side yard setback, front yard setback, and minimum lot width. A variance from Article 7.28A, repairs and maintenance to non-conforming structures will be required due to both the value of improvements from the increase in cubic content. For the record, 19 owner occupants within 300 feet were notified of the proposed variance. No letters received in favor, no letters received in opposition, no letters received returned by United States Mail. And with that, may we have staff report, please?
So this property is almost 1/2 acre in size. It's located on Pontiac Lake and zoned R1D. The existing single-story house on the property is approximately 1,000 square feet in size. It does utilize the public sanitary sewer system for sanitation. The applicant is proposing to demolish an existing 280 square foot, 1-car detached garage and construct a 2-story garage addition on the house. So currently, the existing structures are non-conforming, and the detached garage, which you can kind of see as cross-hatched here. I know it's hard to see with all the lines, but that's the existing 1-car garage. And it's considered part of the principal building because it's located within 10 feet of the house. So the 2 structures comprising the principal building are 4.7 feet from the side lot line, which is here at this corner of the house. And then the current garage is 26 feet from the front property line. Minimum of a 10-foot side yard setback and 30-foot front yard setback are required in R1D zoning. The parcel is also 70 feet wide at the right-of-way line, and in R1D zoning, the minimum lot width is 80 feet. So the proposed addition is 1,708 square feet in size. The first floor would consist of a 676 square foot 2-car garage and 200 square feet of living space, including a new laundry and utility room. The second floor would contain 832 square feet of living space, including 2 bedrooms and 1.5 or 2 bathrooms. The plans show a 5-foot by 5-foot porch here, which would provide access to the addition. It's my understanding that the current front door would be closed off if this addition were to be constructed. And then the plans provided by the applicant show that this area here is where the tie-in will take place. They'll have to construct appropriate footings or a foundation. Right now, there is nothing there to support it, so that would have to be somehow constructed to meet building code. Staff does believe, based on the plans that were submitted, that this does have the potential to be used as a secondary dwelling unit. While the applicant said that that is not their intention, there's still the possibility that a future owner could do that. So if you decide to approve the request, there are conditions that are listed in your staff report to prohibit the use of the addition as being a secondary dwelling unit. We can discuss those if you have any questions. Then Article 7, Section 28 of the zoning ordinance, again, limits repairs and maintenance to non-conforming structures to 50% of the state equalized value in any 12 consecutive months. Does not allow the cubic content of non-conforming structures to be increased. The SEV of the structure is of the current house, I should say, is $39,400. So the maximum extent of improvements in a 12-month period cannot exceed $19,700. The value of the proposed work is $80,000. So the variance, or I should say the value is listed on the building permit application, and variance application is $80,000. So if the variance requested is 406% beyond the allowed value. The building official and myself believe that the submitted plans, based on the scope of the project, the valuation is underestimated and would exceed 80,000. Just for reference, the 2021 building valuation data published by the International Code Council estimates cost of construction at $138.58 per square foot for living areas and $51.28 for garage area. So based on the size of the addition and square foot construction costs from the International Code Council, an estimate for the value of the proposed improvement is $169,400. So again, the variance is being requested, a 3-foot variance on the side. So you can see here, this garage would be 3 feet, or I shouldn't call it a garage, I should call it an addition. It would be located 3 feet from the side property line. The roof overhang is a 2-foot overhang, so that'd be at 5 feet. A 12.6-foot variance for the front yard setback because the garage would be located 17.4 feet from the front property line. 10-foot variance for the lot width. And then, like I said, they're requesting a 406% variance for the value of improvement. And I can calculate a different value if that's the direction you go. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer it.
Thank you, Justin. I was going to ask that you might want to calculate the percentage just in case we do want to go that route. Any questions of staff? Mike, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Am I able to be heard?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. It's interesting that modern cars turn off automatically after a period of time, and that disconnects me from everything, and I have to get back in when the car turns off, and I turn the car back on again. So I'm just wondering, Justin, whether or not the floor plan for the existing structure was submitted as well. It's very vague how this house, this new addition is going to relate back to the existing house at all.
So we have renderings. We don't have a real floor plan. I can show you what was submitted. So this over here on the right side, and I'll go through several photos or renderings that the applicant provided. This is the current house. This is the proposed addition. So you can see that there'd be a connection here. You walk into the laundry room, which is separated from the utility room and the foyer by a door. So there's a door here, and there would be a door here. And there's the covered front porch. So you can either go up this way into the addition or through the laundry room into the other house. So you can kind of see from an aerial view the current house connecting to the proposed addition, walking into. This is really like a vestibule here, so you can either go up this way into the addition or through this way to the west into the main house. This is another view. So this is their current front door that they're saying they would, the applicant said that they would close this off, and that this is where that connection would be to the addition. This is the second floor layout of the addition. So there's a bedroom, a closet, a full bathroom, another bedroom, another closet that looks like a half bathroom on the second floor. That's a rendering of the addition, and then that's a rendering again that's showing how the old or the existing house would connect to the addition. There's the
okay.
there's
So
the covered
my
front
question, yeah, my overall question was, I don't know how many bedrooms the existing house has.
It has
and
2
how-
bedrooms.
2 bedrooms. Okay, thank you.
So there's 2 bedrooms proposed in the addition. The current house is 2 bedrooms. I don't know if that answered the question.
And I'll ask the applicant how the two parts of the addition, how the two parts of the new addition in the existing home, how they're going to relate to each other. They almost seem to be very distinct. And as you pointed out, it almost looks as though you could have two separate families living in this structure.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question. And I totally agree that it can look like that.
Yeah, why don't you wait?
Yep. We have to finish our discussion first.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. That's very common. Don't worry about it. Any other questions of staff?
Yeah, Justin, so SEV, you know, I mean, it's just coming to my mind, even if we throw a big number on, what happens? I mean, the SEV is determined after the construction is complete, correct?
So you're talking about what the value of the property
Yes.
or the
I'm
structure?
sorry, that's the increase, yeah. So, I mean, isn't that determined after everything is done?
So they have to give us a valuation of the improvement, and
Okay.
that's what we base our building permit fees on. And then two,
Okay.
when you have a non-conforming structure, it's the purpose of that section of the ordinance is to limit the repairs and maintenance to a non-conforming structure in 12 months so that
Certainly, yeah.
growing. So I don't know, like I said, right now the SEV of the house is 39,400. I can't tell you what the SEV will be after it has an addition that, based on the International Code Council, says the value of that addition is $169,400. That's what the International Code Council says the value of that addition is based on the current construction costs.
My question is a little bit more general, but it still speaks to this case as well, and the other one's similar. I mean, the estimate is given, and then the permits, everything, but then there is a point at which somebody an assessor, right, would come back out and take a look.
Yeah,
so what happens if let's just say, we guess it's 50,000 and the assessor comes back and says it's 51. I mean, it's a moot point at that point with the variance, right?
It's not, because it's really unrelated. So we're talking about construction value of the improvement, and what they're valuing is what is someone going to pay for that property. So they're two unrelated things.
So if the assessor comes back and puts it at a higher amount, that doesn't
they
matter.
come back at a very different amount.
Okay, and that's just fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
So,
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
What we're more concerned about is, one, collecting the appropriate fee for a building permit based on what the construction is. And then, in this case, the value of improvement to a non-conforming structure.
Fantastic.
So what
Thank
the appraisers do in the assessing department is somewhat related, and hopefully the numbers are close. Hopefully they're not drastically different, but when you add value to a house, usually you add value in kitchens and bathrooms. You might not add the same amount of value as if you add a 2-car garage with living space above, it's
Absolutely.
a different thing. So I hope that answered that question.
No, it did very much. And so basically what we're dealing with in this scenario is we have an estimate from the applicant of a certain amount, and what you have is data that's showing that should probably be higher than that.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff? Kathy?
Justin, did you do the math?
Which part? I
Well,
hope I did.
With your estimate, for the,
I did. It would be 860%.
thank you.
And that's assuming that the cost of lumber isn't going up tomorrow, correct?
Great. So this, we use the most current, and actually this was done in February from the International Code Council. They do it twice a year, in February and in August. So we have to use their February numbers.
No, I mean, I just know that the price of all building material is constantly going up, and so, any other questions of staff? If there is none, then Dave, now you can take it away.
Okay, so yeah, I want to first address the concern. I totally understand that this does kind of look like two separate houses. I've lived here for 16 years, and I've kind of envisioned straightening my house out on the lot this entire time. If you look at my neighbor's houses, the neighbor to the west side just kind of continued with the 1952 house and blew it out to as big as they could in the lot at the time. I believe their variance got approved in the 90s, and their overhang's about 6 inches from my lot line. So I'm not worried about ever building too close to that point, but that is one thing that's kind of been a practical difficulty for that section or that side of my house. Some other factors are, as far as the reason I want the 3-foot variance is it will set my house up. It will first improve the distance that my current garage is from the lot line. And it will allow for a large distance on the east side of the house, which could even be considered a fire lane, I believe, at 21 feet. But it will also, if my family increases in size, I'll be able to add a 3rd bay onto the east side, still allowing probably 15 feet of clearance for any sort of equipment. I could, get letters from either one of my neighbors. I've always been really good at allowing them to use my property to pass because neither one of them can. The house on the west has, like I said, 2 inches on one side, and on the west side it has like just a small pathway. They can't even get by with a lawnmower. I always let them do that. I'm happy to sign paperwork to the effect that I will never use it as a secondary dwelling, or anyone who buys the house would use it as a secondary dwelling. I plan on only having a kitchen in the original part of the house right now. As a phase 2, I would want to be tearing the original 1952 house down and then building onto the addition that was then parallel to the west lot line, making my house quite a bit, or really straight on the lot line. At that point, I wouldn't be asking for a 3-foot variance. I would continue a 3 feet shifted over as a phase 2. I don't know if you guys have any questions as far as what I've said so far.
Any questions? Mike? Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry,
Okay.
yes, I do have a question, and it appears as though you have arbitrarily placed your proposed addition in a particular location. So I have a concern that you could actually move it further away from the west property line than it is right now and not impact the usability of the structure. And then I was wondering, since it does appear to be quite a bit separated, which family member is going to be utilizing the new addition versus this? Okay.
I don't know what you mean by separated. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it is going to be one house. There's going to be one kitchen. There's going to be an open walkway into the staircase upstairs. It's not going to be 2 separate households. My parents don't live with me. Maybe in the future I could see them moving in there, but I don't want to put a kitchenette up there. I don't want to do anything along those lines. All I want to do is straighten out my house, replace it with a garage that I can actually park my truck in. My 1-car garage is so small, I've always just used it as a workshop. I'd like to move it to the 3 feet over to the side because I know in the future I'm going to want to add a 3rd bay. I still want to be able to get past that side of the house on the east side with a well drilling truck. With a fire truck, I don't think it's technically wide enough to be considered a fire lane. But like I said, I've always allowed my neighbors to come through on that side of the yard with equipment for trees, for working on their seawalls, for working on their wells. My neighbor drilled a well down by the lake. So I'd like to maintain that access. I'm the only one of the 3 neighbors that has actual 15-foot wide access.
All right, so I guess since I don't necessarily want to get personal, but let's just say for the sake of argument that you're married and you have a child. I as a parent, I wouldn't want a child that separated from me to have a single bedroom in an addition like that. And so I'm wondering how your family's going to use use the dwelling as proposed?
One of the bedrooms on the first floor would probably be turned into an office. It's possible that the other bedroom on the south side of the original house, I could take a wall out and turn it into a living room for right now. I don't have any children right now, but I do foresee that in the future. So the second room upstairs would be a nursery child's bedroom right next to the master bedroom.
Okay, thank you.
So in other words, Dave, you propose to eliminate the existing bedrooms you now have in the existing home and turn them into something else. Did I understand correctly?
Well, one of them would probably just be an office. It's kind of a loud bedroom. It's never been a bedroom. It's storage right now. The other one could stay as a bedroom that's on the south side of the house where it's my master bedroom right now. But it could also widen my family room area.
Okay.
But this is all kind of in the short term. I foresee maybe hopefully 5-6 years down the road, like I said, tearing this house down and then building a house that probably has a little bit of extra second story and then vaulted ceilings the rest of the way, maybe an additional 40 feet at the max, which with where I'm setting my house up right now, that would be nowhere near the neighbor's tree line or the neighbor's house line. I'd still be stepped back, which I kind of like. I like being tucked between the houses, looking at the section of the lake I do.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of the proponent? Kathleen?
You know, I'm wondering why you just don't go right ahead and tear the house down right now, because it seems to me what you're adding on is almost twice the size of your existing structure. And what you're essentially doing is building another home. I'm really struggling with calling this a garage. So I'm wondering why you just wouldn't go ahead and, you could, make it less non-conforming and all that. So, and maybe in that statement, you could also tell me what the practical difficulty is.
Yeah, so I really can't afford to, and I know that's not necessarily a practical difficulty, to tear down my house, be displaced from my house I'm working from home. I can't really work from a hotel. I can't afford to tear down my house, not have someplace to live, and then in the current housing market or the current building market, potentially be stuck with rising prices where I'm hearing builders are gonna start adding surpluses on, and I'm gonna end up without a house. So this is my way of making sure that I don't have to live in a hotel during it. I would be having the house, the addition on the roadside would be added, and then I would be living in the addition as a very short term, while the house on the other side was added to ultimately result in a straight house. I do have some renderings that I did draw with a potential phase 2. It's not part of this project, so I didn't include them. But I do have everything thought out as far as where the sewers exit out of the house, where all the water, it kind of goes down one column from the bathrooms above the utility room. I've been thinking about this for a while. I know I probably gave a low estimate on the evaluation when I was in the department. They said it only included the mechanicals, and I was also thinking I was gonna do a lot of the finish work, just kind of get it all roughed in, windows, roofs, and sided, so completely done from the outside. And then I was gonna hopefully be able to finish it on a, on either subcontracting out small jobs and also doing myself, which I'm very capable of.
Any other questions? If
I can make a statement so that the owner can maybe respond. And like Kathleen has tried to verbalize here, if there were no structure on this lot at all, I personally would have a hard time approving a non-conforming setback in the thought of that's where a new house was going to go. So if this was approved tonight, we're actually
approving a non-conforming setback for a brand new home sometime in the future. And so if the existing structure weren't there, you would have the ability to increase the depth of the house from front to back, as well as side to side, and you would have a home that would need virtually no variances whatsoever. And you're asking this board to approve a setback variance that will live much longer than the existing current variance or non-conforming structure. So I'm wrestling with that, and I don't know how you as the homeowner might respond to that.
Well, I'm right off the bat, I'm stuck with a 70-foot wide lot. So I am trying to get a little bit extra on the other side so I can maintain that 15-foot wide passing. I'm willing to trade the 5 feet on one side to never be closer than that 15 feet on the other side to allow for, you know, future neighbors to be able to go through there and me to be able to go through there. Otherwise, there's no way for anyone to be able to access the back of the house. I understand your concern, but it's a fact I can't be without a house. And I've lived here for 16 years. I plan to live here for another 30 or 40 years. It's kind of been my plan for the last 9 years. I sent the email to Brent about 9 years with these rough plans, and he thought, he said the variance is required, but he thought, at that time that they probably had a good chance. I don't know how my neighbor on the east side got a variance after they built on the west side, after they built their addition sunroom 6 inches away from my lot in the 90s. But they did, and that's why I'd like to be set up further back to where I never get close to that pinch-off point.
I just, point of order, we don't care what someone said back in the 1990s or 10 years ago of a prior staff member, so disregard that.
Okay, well, I wasn't really asking that question. I just remember people were bringing up how houses were built in the 60s and what variances were back at that point.
And for clarification, I'm sorry, Mr. Hart, go ahead. I've spoken a little bit.
No, my two thoughts are, you are lessening the side yard setback variance that is currently there. But on the other hand, you do have all that other room on the other side. So if you centered it more, and I realize that you want to plan for a third car bay, but we are not allowed to, or we're not supposed to be letting you, and I'm looking over here because I'm looking at your plans. If you centered it over and asked for either less variance on that side or no variance, you'd still have plenty of room on the side of the east side, because you do have a lot of room on that parcel. I understand the front setback, and the only way to eliminate that would be to eliminate your house, which I do see would be difficult. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys are giving me any other path to possibly do this. It would allow 21 feet. If I were to get that 3 feet, that would potentially be considered a fire lane. I don't know if that would be a consideration. Right now, without the garage, it would be 21 feet from where the back of the garage is to the edge of my lot past the 10 feet.
Yeah, we can't control, we have our setbacks, so the 10-foot is appropriate on both sides. There's no such thing as a 15-foot setback in your zoning district on the side.
Okay, so it sounds like I would have to rethink my plans, and there's no way I'm gonna get anything on the west side. It doesn't preclude me from doing the addition I want, but it might preclude me from being able to drive in the backyard. If I were to resubmit a plan that included the garage, would there be a higher chance of getting a variance at that point?
They can't answer that question.
Okay.
Any other questions of the proponent? If not, Jacob, can we open the public hearing, please?
Yeah, so if any members of the public would like to speak on this, it is *9 to raise your hand. Give that a couple seconds. I'm not seeing any hands, so you guys can proceed if you'd like to.
Thank you, Jacob. I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for additional discussion, consideration, or a motion. If there is no discussion at this time, then I'm going to ask Justin, if we can go through the standards in section 7.37, please.
I have one thing. Sorry.
Go ahead, Debbie, that's fine.
If this were tabled, could he come back with revised plans, or if we deny it, can he come back with revised plans? So if you do either or, can he come back with revised plans? I guess if he's asking for a different variance, then he could come back, correct? Is that correct, Justin?
It'd have to be something different, yeah. It'd have to be a different request to come back.
Well, if he just took what he's proposing and shifted it into the property, and the side yard setback's gone, but the other two things remain the same, wouldn't that fit within what's been publicized?
Well, as to answer your question, at least the way I would interpret that, just hypothetical here, guys. If we approved all the variances except for the side yard variance, that's exactly the end result that he would be left with.
Oh, that's a good point, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Right, correct, Justin?
Correct.
So if
we felt that if the front yard setback was justifiable, and again, that's hypothetical, then that would make some sense. Now, knowing that if the existing house weren't there, or if he were to move it into, if he were to shrink the addition or move it into the existing house a little bit, then we could shrink that down a little bit. But certainly that needs to be discussed a little bit more, maybe.
So to be clear, if we denied the side yard setback hypothetically and approved the front setback and the
SCV
value, would he then be able to come back and ask for any other side yard setback or not? That's my question.
So you'd have to, is this a question for me?
I guess.
So to come back, so if you're denied at the zoning board of appeals for something, you have to wait a year to come back unless there's newly discovered evidence or some proof of changed circumstances. So there'd have to be enough of a change to warrant rehearing the request within a year.
But only on that one particular variance.
On that one particular issue that was already heard.
Thank you.
Oh, do we go through the standards or do we discuss some more?
I just want to add, I think that if we would approve this, I want to add a little bit to one of those stipulations.
I think maybe it would be helpful because I guess, is it an addition or is it a secondary dwelling unit? You know, if it's an addition, then a lot of these conditions are meant to address the concerns of never becoming a secondary dwelling unit. So you'd want to look at these conditions and select what applies here. You know, that a lot of these conditions are designed to prohibit a future secondary dwelling unit.
And how can we possibly put stipulations on there to guarantee that, just hypothetically, the property was sold, which he would be entitled to do, and what would prevent that from becoming two households? I don't know if, is there any restrictions that?
That's the problem. It's hard to enforce. You can say, sure, we'll make you record a document against the property that prohibits that. But I'm not sitting here at my desk every day monitoring what houses get sold in the township and what had variances and what had approval or conditions. I mean, if there was an issue and they got caught in the future, then we'd be in court with those people telling them to shut down their secondary dwelling unit.
And that's my problem. I see this as being a secondary household and not a garage.
And so, I mean, with that, the thing that the thing that I would want to add on, but I'm hearing is difficult to enforce is, I know it mentions not having it as a separate rental, but clarifying, like adding on as well. And Justin, the correct term is VRBO, right? Vacation rental by owner.
Correct.
Yeah, which is like an Airbnb and those type of things. And so, because it just seems like that could fall into a gray area. And again, it's not pointing any finger at the current owner. It's just saying throughout the future, you could have somebody living in the frontal dwelling and then saying, but hey, this is great. I'm going to chug out some income off this back part of it. Which is very different from having a separate address, a separate lease, a separate, et cetera, separate meters.
Yep, and I know me saying I'm not gonna do that doesn't do anything, but I'm not. I'm very scared about one of my neighbors. The house just sold, and one of the potential buyers was potentially gonna turn it into a short-term rental, and I would never wanna see that in this area for my whole life.
Yeah, I appreciated you sharing that today when I came by, looked at your property. That was just clarifying what you're feeling about that. Yeah.
Well, Justin, why don't we go through the standards and see how far we get?
Standard A, practical difficulty. A practical difficulty exists on the subject site, and strict compliance with the zoning ordinance standards would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the subject site for a permitted use, or would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome. Demonstration of a practical difficulty shall have a bearing on the subject site or use of the subject site, and not to the applicant personally. Economic hardship or optimum profit potential are not considerations for practical difficulty.
Thank you. Any thoughts? Mike?
We can't hear you.
Mike, we can't hear you.
You're on. It looks like you're unmuted. It's just we're unable to hear you.
How about now?
Good.
Yes. Good.
Okay, thank you. To me anyway, I don't see any practical difficulty at all in the east-west or the westerly setback requirement. And the applicant has said that he needs a deeper garage, and I'm certainly sympathetic to that. But I believe, quite frankly, if he needed a deeper garage, he could do it much closer to the existing structure than what's being proposed now. He's adding items between the garage and the house that architecturally could be done differently to reduce the required or the requested front yard setback as well. So I don't see the practical difficulty here. I'm sorry.
I agree with you. Mike, I too do not see a practical difficulty.
Can I speak to that?
No, I'm sorry.
I don't either.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other comments?
Well, we do have the one request for the variance on the lot width. And I guess I would see the practical difficulty on that variance, but on the on the side yard, no.
I agree with that part. Yeah. It's a narrower lot.
It's a 70-foot wide lot, so
Right, but
Non-conforming lot.
not conforming, right?
it's wider than the typical lake lot. So
I see the practical difficulty of the, the SEV as well, that the value piece.
Correct.
As long as we have an accurate value, that's important.
Justin, you want to go on?
standard B, the demonstrated practical difficulty results from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the subject site at the time the ordinance was adopted or amended, which are different than typical properties in the same zoning district or the vicinity.
This is the unique situation piece.
Correct.
Is this proposal asking us to resolve a unique situation or create a unique situation? Which relates to some of the others as well.
Well, the demonstrated practical difficulty,
Mhm.
I can't see it being that unique. It's a 70-foot lot.
Right.
There's room to shift.
What I'm thinking, Madam Chair, is that if down the road we have another part of this that would certainly require variances because of the narrowness of the lot, et cetera. I think then the unique situation might come up from what we would pass tonight, not necessarily from what's already there.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
That's, yeah. It's all because which really has to get into, our charge about trying to minimize the situation. Yeah, the required variances.
Justin, can we do C, please? Not self-created?
Standard C, the applicant's problem is not self-created.
Any comments?
Because
Mike?
I don't have my computer screen in front of me, and the width of the lot is 70 feet, and that is the east to west request, and he's providing a 7-foot setback on the west side. So I guess my question is are some of you saying that on a 70-foot wide lot with a 10-foot setback requirement on each side, that a 50-foot wide house is a hardship?
I don't think
I didn't understand the discussion of that the width of the lot is a hardship, and I didn't follow that thinking.
It's
I think the width of the lot hardship is because he was asking, I have to go look back for the variance. A variance, isn't it 80 feet?
So that's the zoning standard. I guess what I think, Mike, what you're trying to get at is that there's a lot of lake lots that are less than 40 feet in width in R1D zoning, and this is 70 feet in width. So someone could build a 50-foot wide house on this parcel regardless of the width. So if they met all their setbacks, they wouldn't be before you because the lot was not, it was 70 feet wide and not 80. So if they met all their setbacks and lot coverage and building height and all the other zoning requirements, then they wouldn't be before you because the lot's 10 feet too narrow.
I thought that was minimum lot, but that's variance number 3. So
Yeah.
even if they did construct a house that fit in there, they would still have that. And that was what I was getting at, was that is the hardship for variance number 3.
I could see the hardship off the road because you have an existing house there that is limiting you from moving it further away from the road. So in my mind, I can see that one a little bit more, but I'm not convinced that he needs a 36 foot deep garage. Yeah, so if he modified some architecture, he wouldn't need quite as much. But that I see of a hardship more than side to side.
I believe it's 32, just to clarify.
Thank you, 32.
And there's six foot room in the back. One, if I can speak, the second addition would probably, just for cold air returns, I was thinking that utility, one of the reasons I needed that room in the back is I needed a utility room to heat the upstairs. Also, my laundry room is currently my laundry room is my well room, is my furnace room, is my water heater room. I don't have room for a water softener. I do potentially want to get a new well. That's what the utility room and laundry room would be in that back of the garage. It's just to make it so when I do the phase 2, all of the utilities are in this addition, ready to tear down the old thing, get rid of every pipe and every portion of the 1952 house and be able to continue on and still staying far away from the house line of my neighbors. So I'm not trying to put a massive amount of living space on the first. I understand your concern, but it gives me the ability to move my front door into the addition, which would make it the next phase also a lot more realistic, because I'd already have that moved and I'd have that vestibule that would go into the staircase and into the additional house the way it's set up. I believe if you guys do push me over 3 feet, the entrance might have to change a little bit into maybe the laundry room. That can all be worked out, though. I don't think it stops me from doing it. I might not be able to let my neighbors get equipment in the backyard anymore in the future, though. But I don't have that much of a use for it. But
Justin?
Substantial justice. The variance would provide substantial justice by granting the property rights similar to those enjoyed by the majority of other properties in the vicinity and other properties in the same zoning district. The decision shall not bestow upon the property special development rights not enjoyed by other properties in the same district or which might result in substantial adverse impact on properties in the vicinity.
Well, I don't think we're denying him substantial justice if we deny this variance request.
Agreed.
E, please. Thank you. E, please, Justin.
The variance shall be the minimum necessary to grant relief created by the practical difficulty.
Pardon me. At least in terms of the side yard setback, I think it seems that's been pretty clear. That there's room. Again, I mean, the SEV, I think it's just, I mean, I do believe that if this was a, and please know, I'm not saying this is what you have to do. I'm just saying if this was a complete tear down, rebuild, I think some of these things we'd be looking at them different because that's the typical scenario.
I agree. Are we ready for a motion?
Well, I'll give it a stab.
Thank you, Debbie.
So if I just leave one out, so I move to approve the variances requested by David Nemchik from Article 7. Let me make sure I get this right. 7.2A of the zoning ordinance for parcel number 12-11-451-019, identified as 9323 Gale Road, in order to construct an addition that would encroach, no. An addition that would 12.6 feet into the required front yard setback and exceed the allowed value of improvements to a non-conforming structure by 400, is that correct, Justin, 406%?
860% based on the value that I
860%. A 10-foot variance from the required lot width is also granted from Article 3.1.6.e.
Before you go on, Debbie, you started with Article 7.28A. I did not hear you say Article 3.1.6.e. Did you? Because that's where the setbacks are in.
At the end, I did. A 10-foot variance from the required lot width is also granted from Article 3.1.6.e.
Right, but you moved to approve the variance requested for to Article 7.28A. So Justin, does that mean when she says the other one at the end, we're including?
So you've got to say it before with the first one to cover the setback. The way
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, but I'm trying to avoid the side yard.
you would avoid the side yard by the other language that you struck in the middle of the paragraph.
Okay, all right. So Hannah, can I just add Article 3.1.6.e in front of Article 7.2.8.a?
Yep, I got it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Debbie.
No, I appreciate that. This approval will have the following conditions. The Oakland County Health Division shall certify the on-site water system is properly designed to handle the anticipated additional load prior to issuance of a building permit. The addition plans shall be reviewed by the Township's Department of Public Services prior to an issuance of a building permit. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the White Lake Township Building Department. The principal dwelling unit shall be owner occupied and the addition shall not be rented separately from the principal dwelling unit.
Mr. Hart, would you be willing to add on to that, including in a VRBO, vacation rental by owner situation?
Are you asking me or her?
Her, for the motion. Including VRBO situations?
I know what you're saying, and I'm not 100% sure we could do that if the township doesn't have an ordinance against VRBOs. That's my concern.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
Isn't there a whole nother page that goes along?
there
after
is. I'm getting there.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just saw there's another whole page. This approval should not be interpreted to permit creation of a for-rent apartment or the conversion of the existing single-family unit into a duplex or the like. The second-story addition shall not exceed 550 square feet in size. The second-story addition shall not include more than one bedroom. The addition shall not exceed the maximum building height of the R1D zoning district. Architectural plans drawn to scale shall be submitted at the time of reapplication for a building permit. Access to the addition shall be provided from the enclosed connection on the north side of the house Any other exterior entrance to the addition shall be prohibited. Exterior alteration renovation shall not change the overall single-family character of the dwelling unit or the surrounding neighborhood as determined by the planning department. Prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall submit a revised floor plan for the addition, which shall be subject to the approval of the planning department. No new street address shall be assigned to the addition. All utility connections and services shall be shared between the principal dwelling unit and addition. No new meters, electric, gas, or otherwise shall be installed to serve the addition. The addition shall not have its own cooking facilities. Prior to issuance of a building permit, an agreement shall be prepared by the township attorney to be signed by the applicant and recorded with the Oakland County Register of Deeds, stating the addition shall not be used as a secondary dwelling unit. The agreement shall be binding on the applicant and all further owners of the property. The applicant shall be billed the cost of the township's attorney fees to draft the agreement. Any future enlargement or alteration of the addition shall require approval of the zoning board of appeals.
Do we have a support?
So, quick question, I was told each one of
Oh,
those.
no, you can't, what, not while we're doing this.
Okay.
Is there- Thank you, Kathy.
We have any discussion on this, or I know we've been discussing, I just need a clarification. I mean, so if we can say there's not going to be a separate address, if we can say it's not going to be rented, I'm trying to understand why we wouldn't be able to say it also would not be used in a VRBO situation. And that's just, I'm just trying to understand I'm trying to parse the difference here between the two.
You would have that authority to add that as a condition if you wanted to.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Justin.
That would be something that you could as a condition if you wanted to.
Oh,
I'm having trouble with that. I don't think I want to add that myself. And the reason is that if you wanted to rent your whole house out as a VRBO, then if the township doesn't have an ordinance against that, I understand what you're trying to do, Nick, is to try to avoid renting that portion out, but we've addressed that. But with the VRBO, if you say you can't do a VRBO, I think that's singling out this person if the rest of the township can rent their house out as a VRBO.
I just want to clarify that one of the conditions prohibits the applicant from renting the house. So they couldn't even rent the house if they wanted to. Condition number 4 was the principal dwelling unit shall be owner occupied. So that means that it cannot be rented.
I do realize that it's a bit out of order, but I'm seeing concern on the applicant's face right now. So, Madam Chair, is there I'm just want to point that out.
well, if Debbie doesn't want to include it in her motion, then we can deny this motion and start all over again.
Well,
Can't we, Justin? She's got to include it in her motion.
And I don't want to.
The VRBO or the whole rental thing.
Actually, I was reading and not thinking. I guess it's. I'm scrolling through here. Where does it say?
It does say rented separately, the addition rented separately, so I think that still meets your desire, Debbie.
Okay, that's this, the principal dwelling unit shall be owner occupied and the addition shall not be rented separately. Yes, so I'm okay with that. But I don't want to add the VRBO wording in there.
So it'd be, so they could still rent it separately as a VRBO or not?
The whole structure.
So I'm saying that the way this condition is written, they would be allowed to do VRBO. They would not be allowed to rent their house for anything other than short-term rental.
Well, it says they can't rent it separately.
It says that the principal dwelling unit shall be owner occupied. So the whole thing has to be owner occupied. Nothing can be rented separately, is the way that condition is written. So they,
And-
like I said, they would be able to do VRBO. They wouldn't be allowed to rent it. Any.
And for clarification, I'm not trying to stop them from renting the entire place as VRBO. I was just trying to get in there. And again, it's just a future thing. This piece separately as VRBO from the rest of the house. I hear where you're coming from. I'm just wanted to clarify where I was coming from on that. Yeah.
And I do want to back up. Can I change that? Can I change the wording on my motion? And then if somebody doesn't like it, they can make another motion that instead of saying the principal dwelling unit shall be owner occupied, can we just say the addition shall not be rented separately from the principal dwelling unit? And take that first portion of that sentence out?
That's up to you. That's up to the board.
That's how, Hannah, that's how I would like to change my motion. I would like to take out the principal dwelling unit shall be owner occupied. I would like to leave in the addition shall not be rented separately from the principal dwelling unit. Because I have a concern that I'm limiting someone's rights to do what they want to do with their whole structure.
Sure.
And I don't want to do that.
Kathy, are you okay with that change?
Sure.
Thank you.
And I think, unless you hear it differently, I think that's getting at what I'm trying to say, which is, you know, you don't have the owner dwelling in one part and then renting the other part separately, even for 2 nights or something like that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So thank you. That I think, yeah, you hit on what I was trying to get at, but yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah.
So you got that right, Hannah?
I was muted. Yeah, I do.
Okay. With that then, if there's no further discussion, may we have a roll call, please?
Hart,
Yes.
Castletime.
No,
Does that change the support then that's on it?
No, she can support a motion and vote another way.
Okay, just making sure. Shellac,
I'm still here, I promise. I'm gonna go no.
Powell,
We can't hear you, Mike.
Apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
No.
Spencer.
no. You have not received your variance. As I said at the beginning of the meeting.
So hold on. So a motion to approve failed. So you
Okay.
have to make a motion to deny.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. It's getting late. Somebody want to make a motion to deny?
I'll make a motion to deny the variance requested by David Nimshek, the parcel number 1251-451-019, identified as 9323 Gale Road, due to the following reasons. Referring back to. I do not see it. Do I have to, go ahead, John.
Failure to meet review or variance standards, whatever. the-
Okay, okay. For failure to review the variance standards.
And do we have a support on that? Mike, thank you, Mike. May we have a roll call again, Hannah?
Castleton,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Hart,
No,
Schlack,
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes. Your variance, sir, has been denied, as I said at the beginning of the meeting. There's no other township board that can overrule this decision. If you want to take it further, your only way to go is by state statute, and you must appeal to the circuit court, and you have 30 days to file an appeal. And with that, board members, it is now 5 minutes after 10. I know our new bylaws say that we will not consider any case to be heard after 10 o'clock because these cases were lengthy and a lot of discussion had to be done. I don't believe that it's fair to the final applicant for us to not push forward. I am willing to do so, but I am only one person on a board of 5. So does
I
anybody
concur.
concur? Do we all?
I'm
concur with the
I'm
decision of the
willing.
chair.
With what stipulation?
What?
I need 2 minutes and I'm not taking you with me.
Can we take? We can take.
I think your variance, you're only allowed 1.5 minutes.
Yeah,
I'll go fast.
yes, let's take a 5-minute break.
Won't take me that long.
I just couldn't see poor Todd sitting here this entire time.
No, you're right.
And,
thank you.
no. Now, Jacob, on the other hand, hey, Jacob, you're getting paid for this, so you can
Don't worry.
suffer with the rest of us.
You guys are just fine.
I hope they're paying you overtime and big bucks after 10 o'clock, buddy.
It's all right. I'm having a great time with everyone.
Oh yeah, we're a barrel of laughs, aren't we?
Of course.
Okay, our 5 minutes are up. We're back live. Calling the next case. Todd Hamerick, 8414 Cascade, also identified as 1236-453-012. The applicant requests to construct a single-family house, requesting variances from Article 3.1.6.e R1D, single-family residential, front yard setback, side yard setback, lot coverage, minimum lot area, and minimum lot width. For the record, 30 owner occupants within 300 feet were notified of the proposed request. No letters received in favor, no letters received in opposition, no letters returned by United States mail. And with that, may we have staff report, please?
So, thank you, Madam Chair. On the screen before you, and I'll try to zoom in so you can see it better. This is a site plan provided by the applicant. This property is 4,880 square feet in size. It's located on Cooley Lake. It's zoned R1D. The property is currently undeveloped. The previous home was demolished within the past month or so. The property does have access to the public sanitary sewer system. The applicant is proposing to construct a new house. Back in October of 2020, the Zoning Board of Appeals approved variance requests from the prior owner to construct the house. Variances are valid for a period of 6 months unless a building permit is obtained during that time and the project is commenced in accordance with the terms of the building permit. The prior owner did not obtain a building permit within 6 months of approval, so the variances are expired and void. The following variances were approved at the last meeting: a 5-foot variance from the east and west side yard setbacks, a 10-foot variance from the front yard setback, a 26.86% variance to exceed the maximum lot coverage, a 40-foot variance from the required lot width, and a 7,120 square foot variance from the required lot size. So in May, like I said, in May of this month or of this year, a permit was issued to demolish the former 1,100 square foot house. And that house was non-conforming. Here's a survey that was submitted by the applicant. That was the prior house. That house was non-conforming. It didn't meet the front and side yard setbacks. It was located 4.1 feet from the east side lot line, 5.9. Hearing an echo. 5.9. Is everyone else?
Yeah, Jacob, thank you for muting them. Okay.
Is that better?
Yes, you're fine.
All right. Sorry about that.
It wasn't you.
I hope my voice doesn't sound like that.
You're fine. It happens.
So a 5.9 foot variance from the west side lot line, 12.4 feet from the front or the south lot line. So a minimum 10-foot setback is required on the sides in R1D zoning, and a 30-foot front yard setback is required in that district as well. And again, the parcel is non-conforming to area and width, but those variances run with the land and don't expire. They were already granted for lot area and lot width. So there were some slight changes to the floor plan, but the overall footprint of the building has remained the same. So the previous plan had a 578 square foot 2-car garage, and now it's 731 square foot 3-car garage. On the second story, a dormer was added on the west side of the bonus room. That added some square footage, and a balcony on the second story was removed. Overall, the plans show that the second story increased 72 square foot in size. Again, the footprint remained the same. So the house is 3,310 square feet in size, including the 3-car attached garage. Again, the same variances are being requested as they were previously: 5 feet from the east and west property lines. So again, 5-foot setback, 5-foot variance on both sides. The new house is, again, it's requesting a 10-foot variance for the front setback. And then lot coverage would be 46.86%. That's 2,287 square feet of coverage on the 4,880 square foot lot. So again, it's a 26.86% variance, which is 1,311 square feet of coverage. Again, there was a comment that was noted in the denial letter by the building official that I just wanted to reiterate in the staff report, that the foundation and the roof overhang of this house are at 5 feet from the side lot lines. The applicant has indicated that gutters would be accommodated, that the house was shifted. I don't know if the plans show that. So gutters cannot extend closer than 5 feet to a side lot line. I believe their intention is to install gutters, but we'd have to make sure that they don't project closer than 5 feet to a side lot line. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Justin. Any questions of staff?
Yes.
Go ahead, Nick.
Looking at between the house and the proposed house and the one on the west, I'm trying to get a sense of, this is again the 10-foot factor. How close is that house? I saw that there's a brick walkway. They have their grill out there. Can we see how close that house is to that lot line? And
Yeah, I think, let me show my screen again. So here's the dimension to the west. I don't know if they labeled it. It might be, and I think Joe has the plan, or else I could scale it. It appears, I don't know if that's 6 point. Yeah, I can come get the plan and scale it.
Or is that 3.8?
I don't know if it's at 3.8 or if it's at 6.4. I
Yeah,
don't know
I can't
what
tell.
dimension. So I can scale it.
And along with this, something I didn't see back in October, and it's, the house is demolished, so it's just easier to see things now, is not on this property, but on the property to the west. There is a tree right at the line. And so I'm just wondering about, we obviously we can't tell the neighbor, take down a tree in a ZBA meeting here like this. I'm just wondering about the ability for rescue crews to get through that area.
So this dimension when I'm scaling it appears to be referring to that 3.8 foot dimension.
Okay.
I think that 6'4" dimension is referring to that other piece. So this piece looked like it was referring to that label.
And then, so the 3.8, and then it's a 5 yard. Is that correct, or did I recall that incorrectly?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit. What was that?
The variance being requested is how far? Again,
the variance being requested is 5 feet.
So that would make the gutters and everything aside, overhangs, that would make that 8.8 feet, not 10 feet, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm losing my concentration. Say that again.
No, you're fine. So that would make this 8.8 feet wide, not a 10-foot wide scenario?
Well, I think it's...
Or is that just a different spot where it's 5 feet?
It's a different spot. So here, up here where it's 5 feet,
it's certainly wider back there.
This site plan is drawn really poorly because the old house is underlaid and it's really confusing.
Oh my gosh, I see I got it. Okay, I see the thing that's sticking out is the old part. Okay.
That shouldn't even be there. It's confusing.
But then the tree that I'm seeing, I saw in person, is somewhere right near the back there, just behind where the grill is sitting on the neighbor's property, right in the middle.
Mm-hmm. I can pull up an aerial photo if that might help.
I took a photo. I can put it on my screen if you want. I don't know. Actually, let me is Jacob able to hear me? And I mean, I could throw the photo up.
Yeah, he can. I think you have that ability.
Hey, Jacob.
You should have
Okay.
the ability to screen share.
Okay,
It'll
let
be
me
the
give it-
bottom of the
Okay.
screen, green button.
Got it. Okay, let me let's see. I think I'm almost there. Okay. So this is here it is right here. And it's coming up. So I see the property on the right is the one we're considering. The one on the left is where the trees are, or tree. I don't know I don't know if that's a birch. I can't really tell. But
It looks like a birch tree.
yeah, it does. So again, I'm just considering the emergency access piece of this. You know, I might have a better angle to see how far back that is on the property. Let me stop sharing that one and then share. Let's see here. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell because that other house wraps around. Okay. Thank you, Jacob.
I think the tree is probably back in this vicinity somewhere.
You do? Okay, that's good.
Any other questions of staff? Go ahead, Kathleen.
Okay, I'm getting a little tired here myself, and so I don't hope this isn't a dumb question, but could the setbacks be made if it was a smaller house?
So it's a 40-foot wide lot. 10-foot setbacks would mean that the house would be 20 feet wide.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
I have just one.
Sure, Mike.
I'm just curious. The 3-car garage. Certainly, no one has a right to any garage, but it was granted in the past, and now it's become a 3-car garage, which is going to look even more ominous from the street. And so, when the applicant gets an opportunity, I'd like him to discuss that.
Sure.
I don't think it'll look any more ominous because it's a tandem. So it's still going to look like a 2-car garage from the street.
Ah.
I can try to throw up the floor plan. See it here on the.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of staff? If not, Todd, if you or anybody else that's with you want to jump in, now's the time.
I can say something. Do you hear me?
Yes, could we have your name and address, please,
Yeah,
sir?
my name is Ghassan Abdenour. I'm the architect on this job, and I worked with Todd, and we worked with the planning and the building department. And thank you for having us here tonight. It's been a long night, I agree. So I just want to ask you, we did go in front of you. What's that?
Address?
Yeah, my address is 24001 Orchard Lake Road, Farmington, Michigan. And we just came in front of you in October, and we went through the process, and we get the approval on that variances. Actually, what we did with the plan, it's exactly the footprint is the same, but the only thing was approved at that time and was told to us that we wanted to make sure that the gutters and the overhang is part of the 5 feet. So what we did in this house, actually, we took the gutters and the walls in. So the footprint is a little bit smaller than what was approved in October, just to make sure that the gutters and the overhang line up with the brick wall, and it is 5 feet away from the property. Everything else, we kept it the same. The only changes was in the garage inside, but we took it part of the house inside. And like you said, the front of the house only shows 2-car garage. We only have 16 feet door garage, and that will stay the same. We added some above the garage, some square footage, but the footprint is actually around 8 inches smaller on each side. And we're here in front of you to ask you for that variance that was given to us before, because like was told, the lot is 40 feet and the setback is 10 feet. And with 20 feet house, it's hard to make the residence. So we do feel like there's a hardship in that part. And we ask also for the variance from the street side, just to be able to park a car. So that's why we have that. But we meet the requirements from the water side and from the neighbors, and we're not interfering with anybody's view. And if you have any questions, I would like to answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
This is Todd Hamrick. I'm the applicant. Just to piggyback on what Ghassan just said, I actually just went to the house today and I spoke with my neighbor to the west, Paul, and we're both in agreement that the fence between us it's going to be coming down. So hopefully that will alleviate some of your concern about the rescue crews being able to get in without having that fence there. I think we're going to have a lot more maneuverability, to address that issue.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, I just have a couple questions, maybe for the architect. There are a couple concerns that we as a board have, and that's locating mechanical units, any mechanical units or generators on the side yard setback when we grant side yard variances. And I didn't know where you might be putting the HVAC systems if we prohibit that on the side yard.
It's going to be in the back area. We're creating something close to the deck inside, not part of the 5 feet. So it's actually in a hidden area in the back.
All right.
In the back.
All right, and then the next question I have is, with only 5 feet down the sides and you're not having any gutters, normally I like to see gutters and downspouts to be able to pick up the water. How are you dealing with the water that's going to be coming off this roof?
We will have gutter. We're making the house smaller, the width of the house smaller. So, but we're staying 5 feet away from this. We're keeping the gutters, we're keeping everything in the house.
So you'd be able to pick up the downspouts then in pipes, so you don't have the water running over the surface down the very narrow side yards?
That's right, yes. It's part of maybe the system that takes the water out. The drainage around the house.
All right, my last question is, when you added the dormer on the roof, that changes, typically anyway, it changes the calculation for the building height. Do you have a building height problem now, or has that been addressed?
No. I don't have the drawings in front of me, but we don't have a height problems.
So the dormer was actually, it's not to the top, it's actually on the side of the garage. So it's not even near the peak of the garage at all. So
it's on the lower side of the house.
It's on the lower, yes. It's extending laterally, not vertically.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? If there are none, Jacob, can we open the public hearing?
Yes, we can. So if any members of the public would like to speak on this, it's *9 to raise your hand. Give that a couple seconds. I'm not seeing anyone wanting to speak, so you guys can continue if you'd like to.
Thank you, Jacob. I will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board for discussion, consideration, or we can move on and have Justin go through the standards. Go ahead, Mike.
Just very quickly, this applicant and this project really was my example as to why a 70-foot wide lake lot is really large enough to build a house on. And so this helped me out a great deal in putting things in perspective. So thank you.
There's no further discussion, then Justin.
I just wanted to make one point too.
Oh, go
Just
ahead, sir.
I mean, I do know that this will have no bearing on my vote in any way, but I just want to mention that even though it has been approved before, just that reminder that we have to view this as if it's the first time we've seen it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Justin,
Standard A is practical difficulty. A practical difficulty exists on the subject site, and strict compliance with the zoning ordinance standards would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the subject site for a permitted use, or would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome. Demonstration of a practical difficulty shall have a bearing on the subject site or use of the subject site, not to the applicant personally. Economic hardship or optimum profit potential are not considerations for practical difficulty.
I personally see a practical difficulty on this with the lot itself.
I agree.
Okay,
Agreed.
thank you. B, unique situation.
The demonstrated practical difficulty results from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the subject site at the time the ordinance was adopted or amended, which are different than typical properties in the same zoning district or the vicinity.
I'd say yes because of the lot size again, the width.
Thank you. C, not self-created.
Standard C, the applicant's problem is not self-created.
I don't know, Todd, did you lay this lot out yourself?
I would like to have two of what I have, to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not self-created.
No,
D, substantial justice.
The variance would provide substantial justice by granting the property rights similar to those enjoyed by the majority of other properties in the vicinity and other properties in the same zoning district. The decision shall not bestow upon the property special development rights not enjoyed by other properties in the same district or which might result in substantial adverse impacts on properties in the vicinity.
The only question I would have relates to the neighbors, and again, it's just the view line piece. But I seem to recall us discussing this 6 months ago too, and recognizing most of the homes go out to that line that it would be going to.
Correct. I remember that as well.
Yeah.
E, minimum variance necessary.
The variance shall be the minimum necessary to grant relief created by the practical difficulty.
I think he is asking for the minimums only.
A 10-foot wide house.
Yeah, well, doesn't get much more than that.
I would just say if you're going to go the route of approval, you throw in condition 3, the gutters, just like it says in no event shall the projection of the roof overhang, including gutters, I would add that, be closer than 5 feet to the east and west side lot lines. And then whether or not you want to add in the condition that Mr. Powell usually brings up about the mechanical units in the side yard.
Thank you. With that then, does somebody want to make a motion?
Sure.
Thanks.
I move to approve the variances requested by Todd Hamerick from Article 3.1.6.e of the zoning ordinance for parcel number 12-36-453-012, identified as 8414 Cascade Street in order to construct a new house that would exceed the allowed lot coverage by 26.86%, encroach 10 feet into the required front yard setback and 5 feet into the required side yard setback from both the east and west property lines. This approval will have the following conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the White Lake Township Building Department. A foundation certificate shall be required prior to the backfill inspection by the building department. In no event shall the projection of the roof overhang be closer than 5 feet to the east and west side yard lines, including the gutters. No mechanical units, including HVAC system or generator, shall be placed closer than 5 feet to any. Mike, would you assist me a little bit in wording this?
No, actually, that's worded very well, closer than 5 feet to any side yard property line. That prohibits it alongside the home.
It will. Okay, good.
And so I think that's good.
Okay. No mechanical units, including HVAC system or generator, shall be placed closer than 5 feet to any side yard property line.
I will support that if Nick, if you would be willing to add in there that that all roof drainage will be picked up in downspouts and pipes to eliminate the surface drainage down the property line from the home.
Absolutely. Hannah, do you have that wording?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I just said.
Support.
And then you supported it, correct, Mike?
Yes.
Thank you. Hannah, may we have a roll call, please?
Black,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Spencer,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Hasseltine.
Yes.
Scott, you got your variance. Make sure you pull that permit for 6 months is up. Give staff
Thank-
about a week or so. You'll need to have a copy, a rough draft copy of the minutes to take to the building department when you come back.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
staying
guys.
late, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Have a good evening. Congratulations.
Any other business before us, Justin?
No, ma'am.
Just one, guys. I want to thank each one of you for being patient with me. It was a really learning experience doing it this way, and I want to thank each one of you.
Hey, I want you to stop traveling.
I want to thank Mrs. Powell for being patient with Mr. Powell.
Oh,
Yes, a big hand for her.
she's
Amen.
sitting
Yeah.
next to me. Yes.
I was
You're an
thinking
angel.
the hotel pool's probably closed by now. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, go find yourself a cold beer somewhere, Mike.
Amen.
Next meeting's July 22nd, and I understand we have some cases before us.
Correct.
And do I need to remind everybody at the start of our next meeting that we have to be careful and make sure we start the last case before 10 o'clock? Or do we just proceed the way we've been doing it? I just bring it up and we proceed on. I don't think it's fair to the proponents that sat here all night long.
I agree.
Okay.
I think the way
Yeah.
that you're doing it is appropriate. We're not trying to shut down the meetings. It's just a general reminder. Now, if we were at midnight, maybe we'd have a different answer. I don't know, but I don't know if we'll ever get to that point where we're going to stretch a meeting into the next day.
No, we're not going to. Trust me on
Well,
that.
I mean, imagine if we had 5 or 6 cases tonight. I'm fine going with it, but I mean, wow. Yeah.
I know. Hey, I saw you yawn, Nick.
I did once, yes.
I did too. So.
And I was yawning at something I was saying. That's the worst part. Any clarification, Justin, on in-person meetings, where we're at on that?
We're kind of up in the air right now. I don't know what's going to be happening in the next month or two. So the township is establishing a new boardroom. So the old boardroom will no longer be where we hold meetings. We're going to be creating a new boardroom in the township annex. So we're kind of in the process of doing that. And the township board will be hearing more about that, I think, next week at a special meeting. So
All right.
it takes some time to set up, but so I don't know how long it's going to take and when we'll be back in person, but we're working towards that.
Okay.
Jacob, thank you very, very much.
Yeah, no problem. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay.
He doesn't get to vote on if we do this past 10 though. That's-
Oh, I know. Well, I'm assuming he's getting paid well for this.
one would hope.
Yes, one would too.
Oh, motion to adjourn?
Yes,
Second.
please. Thank you, Kathleen. A support?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.